How did that screen get misaligned? I just noticed that that screen was misaligned right there. Hopefully that didn't look too horrible on y'all's end. I'm not sure how or why that was misaligned, but it somehow managed to get misaligned there. I apologize for that. Yeah, we just got a an injury report out there. You see the big arrow and circle pointing to it in eastern Ohio there. I just saw that. It just came in on my radar program. Not often we see that an injury from damaging winds on this program. It looks like that was from a tree falling. So, yeah, we're going to be covering this this MCS here you see in the background. But before we do that, let's hop in the chat and see what we have in here. We have Silly, we have Jameson, Pez is somehow in here, Cruz, as well as Johnny, Ohio, Haley, family, and everyone else in the chat who I may have forgotten to welcome, or if you're just now tuning in and not chatting, glad to have you here as well. Storms, welcome to the stream. And I figured I'd spark up a stream because it is Sunday, which means there's probably a few of you guys who are looking for some streams to watch, you know, trying to kill some time. And not only that, we've got some severe weather approaching pretty populated regions here. And also a lot of severe weather to talk about in the future tense too. So let me just give everything a double check. Looks like we are good to go. Actually, give me just a second to do this real quick. There we go. That's good right there. And we will switch on over. Alrighty. So we've got one tornado warning active out here in Ohio. We actually just had 2 for a second there, but now we are back down to 1. So this is going to be a pretty weak line for damaging winds here. It's not going to be anything too crazy. Look at about 40 to 60 mile-an-hour winds here as this line moves through Pittsburgh. And this line will actually eventually make it all the way down to the DC Metro very late tonight, probably towards 9 p.m. Eastern time. So this is going to be a very long duration MCS here. Especially in the short term, I think that's going to be when it has its best opportunity to produce damaging winds upwards of 70 to maybe 80 miles per hour. We had a few 70 mile an hour wind gusts earlier towards Zanesville, but we haven't really seen anything too significant aside from right around that Zanesville area. Again, you do see that. Pretty rare to see an injury on this program. You don't often see reports come in with that little plus blue icon meaning an injured person. And you could see, unfortunately, one person was injured by being hit by a falling tree. That is that's not something you see every day. Hopefully that person is all right. That's a very serious thing. And hopefully they are okay. That's a very serious injury there, depending on how large the tree was. But that's very unfortunate. Hopefully they are okay. Again, that's in Zanesville, Ohio, southeastern, kind of east central Ohio there. But as of right now, you can see we're starting to get these severe thunderstorm warnings, these 60-mile-an-hour winds, severe storm warnings. We've had them for quite a little while, but we've had a little bit more of those 70-mile-per-hour damaging winds, severe thunderstorm warnings again on that southern side. So this might be weakening just a tad bit, but it easily could re-strengthen as we go into the afternoon and evening hours. So let's take a look at our overview here. You can see there's actually a lot that's happening on this map. We've got severe thunderstorm warnings down here in North Carolina as well. North Wilkesboro Speedway, Wilkesboro under that severe thunderstorm warning. Severe thunderstorm warning for the eastern side of Greensboro out there in central North Carolina, as well as back down here towards Chapel Hill, just to the northwest of Raleigh, North Carolina. We have some severe storms in West Virginia for Glenville, just to the northeast of Charleston. And then, of course, we do have that main area we are watching as these severe storms are beginning to approach the western portion here of Pittsburgh and moving into western Pennsylvania. And they should be moving roughly at about 45-50 miles per hour. You could see moving east at 50 miles per hour. And we're going to use this new tracking tool here that WeatherWise has. And this is very, very useful because you could just draw along the track that you want. And then we could just flop it all the way out here to the east side of that severe thunderstorm watch. You can see it's auto-detected that this is roughly moving east at about 47 miles per hour. So we're actually just going to keep that. And then we could pop out this little storm track here, and you can see some of the towns and cities that this is going to be in the time frame of that in Eastern time. Right there on the left side of your screen, according to WeatherWise. So you can see in about 5 minutes, Barnesville going to be impacted. Let's see where that is. So that's actually in the tornado warning right there. If we go ahead and do this, we can move our radar. You can see that's your tornado warning. So Barnesville in eastern Ohio, you've only got about 5 minutes before this storm is over you. Then we also have a little bit further down the line here. We could scroll down our list and go to let's go to Newcastle. And that's going to be in eastern Ohio as well. And then we could go even further into let's see, how far could we go down this list? It's a very long list. It is a very long list. Fairpoint, so that's getting towards the border of eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. We can go very, very far down. Very Pleasant Grove, that's getting almost into Pennsylvania. You can see that's right there, far, far eastern Ohio. So very, very populated area. I mean, I could scroll down this list. It's going to take me forever to get to the bottom. That's how many towns are inside of the track of this line. There you go. Mapletown. That's the last, apparently one of the last towns. Actually, nope. Keeps going. My bad. Keeps going. So you can see, I think that might be the last one. Afton. Yep, that's right on the edge of it. So that's about 5:20. About 5:20 Eastern time. So just a very populated region here. Under the gun for severe weather. Very, very populated region. You can see those blue tracks once more. So you can see around Wheeling, that's about 3:20. These little contours you see here, the extra contours, those are every 30 minutes. So it's right here, right now. So this is 2:50 Eastern time, 2:50, 3:20, 3:50, 4:20, 4:50, and 5:20. That's your times. Each one is a 30-minute increment there. So it begins at 2:50 right now, and it ends at 5:20 way over here at Somerset. So that's the timing. So Wheeling, you just said 15 minutes from Wheeling. So Wheeling's going to be hit roughly at about 3:25 p.m. Eastern time, and about 20 minutes from now is when Wheeling will be hit. And do note that the northern area here is going to be hit sooner. So, if you're up here towards Butler, you're going to be hit at 3:50. Whereas if you just follow that line, it's actually way down here. So you guys down here towards, Cameron, you guys aren't going to be hit till maybe a little bit after 3:50. This southern line might be moving a little bit slower than that northern line because you could see kind of the bowing of that northern line there. But the southern one is also bowing. So let's go and get rid of that track so it's not too confusing for y'all. I just wanted to use that track real quick to kind of get a general estimate on time frames here. So Pittsburgh, you guys are probably going to be in a little under an hour or so. Roughly about 3:40, 3:50, close to 4 p.m. Eastern time. It depends on what side of Pittsburgh you're on. Pittsburgh's very, very large. The west side of Pittsburgh, y'all are going to be hit in 15 minutes. east side of Pittsburgh, that might be closer to like 40, maybe 50 minutes. So we'll continue to watch that line as it pushes off to the east. We also have a few other storms to watch. We have a severe storm here in Springfield, Illinois. That's a severe thunderstorm warning. Just get away from doors and windows there. We don't really have any other severe weather happening in the U.S. We will have some isolated severe storms along the mountains here, the eastern Rocky Mountains, but there's nothing too crazy out there at this given moment. So out here for like Barnesville, that area in eastern Ohio, under that tornado warning in this red polygon, it appears that that has for some reason turned off. Let's go ahead and turn that back on. Let's put that up to 60%. There you go. Don't know why the highlight turned off, but it did. So there you go. You have that tornado warning for just about 4 more minutes. Not a very long duration tornado warning right there. So just stay in your safe spot. Make sure you are well away from doors and windows. Get into the most interior room of your home, lowest floor possible. And once more, away from doors and windows. Very interior room is the safest place to be. That is if you don't have a basement or storm shelter in that tornado warned area. Again, in eastern, southeastern Ohio, Barnesville, Morristown, Quaker City, Batesville, you guys are all under that active tornado warning. And it's not a very strong area of rotation, but you can see we have this little indent here, so it's worth a tornado warning, because when you have this little indent, what you have is you have a bow echo here, right? And we know that winds surge out on a bow echo. Your winds are so strong from the west pushing eastward that they surge out that line, forming a shelf cloud and increasing damaging wind potential on a favorable day like today is. But another thing that can actually do is that can actually push the winds in front of the storm up into the northern corridor of that bow echo, and it can create this little indent, and this little indent is actually favorable for a spin up tornado, because you have the bow echo pushing those winds forward and up, and then you have those winds from the west pushing the bow echo forwards. So you have winds that are pushing like this, pushing the storm forward, and those winds being hit by the storm being pushed and pulled upwards into that little notch area. And it creates a little area of rotation. It's nothing very significant. Most of the time, it's just weak, brief spin-up tornado potential. And that is the same case here today. The weakest, tiniest little area of rotation here, just over the I-70 corridor, just west of Morristown, very close to Barnesville. So not very significant, not something that would drop a strong or intense tornado, but something that could briefly spin up a weak, brief tornado. And it's very important to note that you shouldn't be trusting your radar on this. Very easily, most QLCS tornadoes occur under the radar, where they're so weak and so brief and lift so little debris that we actually don't know they occur until the National Weather Service goes and surveys that area. So just because there's no giant CC on your correlation coefficient doesn't mean there's not a tornado on the ground. Now remember, a tornado warning means a tornado is imminent or possibly even already on the ground. A little bit of some severe storms popping off on the northern edge of this line too. They just severe warned that. This looks like a bookend vortex almost. Almost like a bookend vortex. So this is another cool thing that happens as well inside of lines on the northern edge. You get those winds from the west pushing the storm, obviously, and those can sometimes go up and over like this into the behind the storm. But what really gets this bookend vortex to happen, sometimes could cause a tornado, is your winds actually come up and around and then pull into the back of your storm like that. It's a very technical, complex way to get a spin-up tornado. And you can actually see it happen. You can actually see it happen, how your winds in front, they actually push up and over and then go into the back of the storm here. You could see it push out, right? Watch right in where my cursor is. You'll see that hook push down, up, and around. That's those winds actually surging up and around this little storm feature here. And we could get a brief spin-up tornado there. It's not enough for a tornado warning. It's not very strong, so that's why they've just put a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag on this, because a tornado could occur in the future, but it doesn't necessarily seem imminent just yet. Hello, Logan. Welcome to the stream. I don't believe I welcomed you. Glad to have you in here. Hopefully you're doing well. Yes, there is indeed a tornado warning in Ohio, but it is just about to expire. It says just now, but oh, there you go. It did just expire. Waiting for it to hit 3 p.m. Eastern. You can see under my face cam, 19 UTC/Z is indeed 3 p.m. Eastern. Continuation of that severe thunderstorm warning in West Virginia for Burnsville and Rock Cave. So we'll continue to monitor that. I do want to just take a brief moment. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I do want to take a brief moment here to talk about our tropical storm Lala out here that has been impacting Hawaii. We had as much as 30 inches of rain fall on the eastern side of Hawaii, the big island of Hawaii, yesterday. And ever since then, this has taken the closest track that it has to the islands. This has really not been that far out to sea. If we kind of look at a scan here, we'll look at that tornado warning in just a moment. I just want to show you all this tropical storm. It's really hugged the island. It has really hugged the island and taken a more northeast trajectory. Now it is moving more to the west, thankfully, but you could see it's still on the more northern side of that cone. So instead of it just passing south of the island like it did and then just going up and out to sea, instead what it did was it really went more like this. That's really more of like what it did. So we got a lot more rainfall and significant impacts in these islands up here than we were originally anticipating. And then, of course, the east side of Hawaii absolutely slammed. This is an old radar scan. Upwards of 30 inches of rainfall fell there. And I believe for the first time in recorded history, we had hurricane-force sustained wind speeds on the southern side of the big island of Hawaii for the first time in recorded history. So this is another one of those tiny little indents. You got a tiny little bow echo surging forward that allows for a little inflow in front, and the winds from the west pushing the storm, providing some of that outflow. And you just get a little area of spin, very tiny area of spin. This is the most common spin-up tornado. This is, if it does spin up, would be a classic QLCS spin-up tornado. A very, very small couplet of rotation, very weak, but pretty tight. So that is a tiny little area of rotation there. That is actually a very good tornado warning. A really good job by the... Oh, wow, look at that. The terminal radar shows that even better. Matter of fact, that might just be correlation coefficient. This was a very, very good warning from the National Weather Service out here in Pittsburgh. I did not even see that right next to the radar site. That... Let's see, velocity a little bit ahead, so you would have CC in that area. Let me just recircle that again. Right in here. You can see CC is close. The area of rotation is actually pretty strong. According to normalized area of rotation, which I fully disagree with. It's not a strong area of rotation. I'll tell you that. It's probably like 50 mile an hour area of rotation. But yeah, there is a little ZDR drop. That might be a brief spin-up tornado on the west side of this couplet. We might actually have a little spin-up tornado ongoing. You can see right here on correlation coefficient, you have that blue blob over Jack's Diner. Right over Lincoln Highway 30. Let's go to GR2 analysis. This could kind of show us a little bit better. And yeah, GR2 says this is 100% a tornado on the ground. It has a 100% chance of a tornado on the ground, but let's do our checkbox. It's been a pretty consistent CC. You can see it actually looks like it might have been unwarned if it did touch down right there. Look at that. Looks like it might have been briefly unwarned, but very quickly was warned by the National Weather Service. Very good call to issue that tornado warning. And I don't see anything that wouldn't say that's a tornado on the ground. It looks like a tornado to me. You could see that track right there. Touchdown probably just outside that tornado warning and is probably lifting right in here. So brief spin up weak tornado probably just occurred inside that tornado warning here in Pennsylvania. Let's go ahead and go back to weather-wise. I'll show you a more zoomed out view here. So this is potentially a tornado still ongoing, heading towards Independence, just to the south of Center Township. just northwest of our radar site in western Pennsylvania. So if you are in this area, you need to get to your safe spot. This could be a tornado ongoing. Almost 40,000 people inside of that active tornado warning. That's our only tornado warning right now, but I do want to just note that this line is becoming more... It's not stronger. It's not up to 70 miles per hour anymore, but it is becoming a little bit more widespread. We have a severe warning all the way up from Youngstown, all the way back down to the border here of Ohio and West Virginia. So this is a very large line of 60-mile-an-hour winds here that is about to push into the Pittsburgh area. And we could get a brief spin-up tornado or two off of this line as it moves in. And you could see that area of rotation. There's actually a few areas of rotation. Maybe, let's see. None of these look particularly good. Just that northern one looks the best there. But I want to go back to that terminal. It's not too often. Yeah, look at that. That's probably still a tornado on the ground to the northwest of Mechanicsburg in western Pennsylvania. Get to your safe spot if you are out around that vicinity and in that tornado warning. Let's go ahead and loop this real quick. This terminal could show us that this might be a little stronger area of rotation. You can see that couplet come together very quickly as it crosses the state line of Ohio and Pennsylvania. I believe that's where it first probably touched down. Continued right over Jack's Diner over Lincoln Highway 30. And is probably still progressing off to the east. It may still be down. Those green pixels are weaker, which could mean that it may not be on the ground anymore because of that inflow weakening. But we still do have some CC in the vicinity. I'm not sure if that is the same CC. Let's check on that. That is the same CC, so I still think we actually have a tornado still on the ground here. Not confirmed. It is not confirmed from the NWS. They still have radar indicated, but I still believe that this is a tornado on the ground, now on the northwest side of Mechanicsburg in western Pennsylvania. Am I getting hit by storms today? You might. You're in the slight risk, I believe. I believe you are in the slight risk for severe weather. Yep. You sure are. So it's definitely possible. The problem with these summertime thunderstorms is the reflectivity is unpredictable. Where storms fire, how strong they are, and exactly what happens and what timing is, it's always all over the place. But I would expect storms in your area about 7-8 p.m. your time. I would. Like today, we were looking at models yesterday, and I was talking about the potential for a few tornadoes, but we were thinking a bit more of a discrete mode. And instead of a discrete mode, what do we have? We have a full-fledged line. So, summer, very hard to predict the storm mode that you're going to get. It's very difficult. But right now, it does look like you're likely to get some damaging winds, heavy rain, thunderstorms roll through about 7 o'clock. It sure does. The mod dome is failing. It is failing. Basically, in summer, you just look for the littlest bit of forcing, and if there's a lot of cape there, there's a pretty good chance there's going to be thunderstorms. That's how it works in summer, man. So many thunderstorms. And thankfully not too big of tor threats in summer most of the time. Especially once you get past June. Most of the time July is where severe weather is mainly in the form of damaging winds and isolated large hail. Not too much of a tor threat. But you can see up here with this MCS we're dealing with in western Pennsylvania, you have this instability that is surging to the north-northeast out in front of this line. So it should be able, at least the southern edge of the line. I don't know about the northern edge of the line. I'm not very confident on that staying as a long-lived line. But the southern edge, I think the southern edge here could track all the way down into the DC Metro here in about 5-6 hours. It could be in DC. It is going to weaken somewhere near DC. It is going to weaken as it gets towards the edge of that instability axis. So we know that for a fact, but I do think it could get into DC. And you can see we have a lot of cloud cover over DC, a lot of blocking that daytime heat there. So we're not getting a lot of instability to build. But that's the dead opposite here in western Pennsylvania and into much of West Virginia. We're getting a lot of clearing, which means a lot of heating on the surface and a better opportunity for instability to build and thunderstorms to form. It looks like this area of rotation has died. I doubt that this is on the ground anymore. You could see no clear-cut area of rotation anymore on our terminal radar. That weakened fairly fast once it got past Mechanicsburg. So that was a fairly good tornado, too. If that actually did stay on the ground that long, you're looking at from the Ohio-Pennsylvania border all the way to right around northeast side of Mechanicsburg. So yeah, that's a good solid 7-mile tornado. You don't see QLCS spin up tornadoes last that long that often. Typically, it's only like very, very short, like 3 to 5 minutes. They're typically very, very weak, very, very brief. But this one was seemingly a little bit more long-lived. If we go ahead and take a look at our probability of debris, yeah, look at that. So again, touchdown roughly in here and tracked all the way into where it lifted over in here. That's what I'm assuming. It's not a confirmed tornado yet, but radar definitely very, very confident in multiple debris signatures out of that storm. Maybe it could have actually been... Hold on. I wonder if it could have been 2 tornadoes. Either 1 tornado or 2 tornadoes. It may have lifted shortly and then touched right back down. Either way, I do think that was a tornado. But great call by the National Weather Service in Pittsburgh to tornado warn that. That was a very, very much needed tornado warning. I probably wouldn't have even seen that if they didn't tornado warn it. Could see 4,500 joules per kilogram of surface-based CAPE this afternoon and evening. Yeah. It's going to be very fueled for damaging winds later today across your area. Don't expect much of a tornado threat out there, but I would expect a pretty good damaging wind threat right across the St. Louis metro. The timing's a little uncertain. Some models say closer to 9 o'clock. Other models, like the HRRR, which is a little bit more up to date, says closer to like 8 p.m. 8 p.m. So I would just be watching for storms to fire. They should fire right about 4 5 p.m. Central Time. About 2 hours from now. Back out in here. Pittsburgh, you're under that severe thunderstorm warning now. Take a look at, wow, the population, 1.5 million people inside that severe thunderstorm warning. That is a lot of people under the gun for severe weather. We'll take a look at tomorrow's severe threat in a bit. I'm letting model data load for tomorrow. We're getting the newest HRRR, so I'm letting it load up. But just roughly, yeah, there is a chance for severe weather tomorrow in 2 different areas. And then as we go into Tuesday, big chance for severe weather up into the Central Plains in the Midwestern U.S. And that could include your area too, Haley. Not anything too crazy for you, but it could include you. Let's see. Baseball game is still ongoing in Pittsburgh. Uh-oh. I'm assuming baseball is not indoors. I don't know if I've ever seen indoor baseball before. So I'm sure that's going to be a big problem. Hopefully they can heed that severe thunderstorm warning. It's probably closer to downtown Pittsburgh, I'd have to imagine. Yeah, if they're not seeking shelter yet. But this is a pretty gnarly, severe storm here. This is not the severe storm you want to mess around with. Especially on the far southern side, you could see some of those brighter red, almost pink colors there. And that's going to be heading right into the a downtown area of Pittsburgh. I mean, that's going straight for downtown Pittsburgh. If we're going to see another tornado out of this, it's going to be from that area there. It's going to be from probably, I'd say, that northern edge, that's the most likely area where we could see another tornado spin up. And you could see a few little pockets here of some damaging wind potential, so we still have the chance for some scattered 60 to 70 mile an hour winds along this severe thunderstorm line, even down here heading into West Virginia now. And these are all, that one's tore possible. That one's tore possible. That one's tore possible. They're all tore possible, so we could easily see a spin-up tornado go unwarned and completely unnoticed. And matter of fact, that area's got my eye. See if that tightens up at all towards Sunflower and Union. It's always Union. It's always Union. In 2026, there's always Union. Seems to be anything. Unionville, Union City, Union anything. Seemingly attracts tornadoes in 2026. I swear we've had like 10 different unions that have been hit by tornadoes. So if you are in Unionville, Sunflower, I would be watching this very closely. Definitely be away from doors and windows. But if that tightens up on this next scan, it would not be a bad idea to get to your safe spot just in case. Sun is out and it feels so humid here. Feels like a good thunderstorm day. Back out here, we just had a strong storm roll through the west side of our county. And that was fueled by just literally instability. Like, it wasn't supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to get storms till like 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. And we ended up with a storm at 12 o'clock on the western side of my county. So sometimes they could just pop up out of nowhere with all the instability that builds during these months. Pretty much every day, you're going to have pockets of, 4,000 or 5,000 surface-based instability out there. And when that mixes over with a little bit of forcing, you can get big-time storms. And, man, forbid a trough comes through. Yeah, you end up with a derecho. That is getting a tiny bit tighter. It would not be a bad idea to seek shelter into your safe spot, like a tornado could occur out here in Sunflower, Unionville, Knob, Freedom. This is in western Pennsylvania, by the way. You guys have a tornado warning to your south, but if you are in that tornado warning, still be in your safe spot. You're in a tornado warning, but just to ease your anxiety a little bit, it seems like that area of rotation has died inside that tornado warned area for the moment. That could come back, which is why we still want to pay attention to that area of little spin as it goes up towards the north side of Pittsburgh, towards Ross Township, that general area right up in here. Still want to pay attention in that area just in case we do get another spin up tornado threat there. Maybe even a little bit to the south of there as well. But yeah, see that little indent? We have another little indent here and a little bit of inflow trying to push into that storm. And as that is happening, we could be getting some spin. And you can see, again, we have red. This is winds going away from our radar. Green is winds going towards our radar. So you have winds that are going from south to north and winds that are going from north to south right in here. And if those tighten up a little bit, we could get a brief spin-up tornado up here towards once more Sunflower, Unionville, Knob, Freedom, that area in Pennsylvania. They have gone ahead and canceled that tornado warning because it doesn't pose a imminent tornado threat anymore. However, we easily could get another tornado warning on this line somewhere as it passes through Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, through Pittsburgh, up towards Butler. So definitely want to watch out in this area. If you are in this vicinity, I would be watching out for the potential of a tornado or two to spin up over the next 30 minutes. If you've got a lot of high temperatures there, a lot of humidity, dew points, so that's very, very good for thunderstorms. Obviously, the temperature dew point spread not very favorable for a tornado threat. We shouldn't have much of a tornado threat back there into Missouri. You can't rule out some random tornado in Missouri somewhere, very weak and very brief. And actually, it's not a particularly bad environment back there. in the upper levels. The problem is the lower level wind shear is very, very weak. So you actually could get some mid-level spin, and it wouldn't surprise me if there's a funnel cloud or two out there later on today if we get a more discrete mode. And I wouldn't even rule out a tornado in eastern southeastern Missouri, because that mid-level wind shear, according to the HRRR, is supposed to get upwards of 300 0 to 3 kilometer SRH, which is very favorable in the mid-levels for spin. Right now it's only 100, which is not that bad. That's not a lot of spin. Still, little velocity couplet there of a sunflower. I'll switch over to GR2 here. You can see GR2 on NROT is detecting a little area of rotation. Now, I do not think that we have some ginormous tornado on the ground here, okay? That CC is definitely contaminated, so we could have a weak brief tornado ongoing at any moment, but we're not going to be able to see because our correlation coefficient is contaminated. So don't go thinking that this whole blue CC is a huge giant tornado. It's not. But see where that you have that little blob of spectrum with it. I wonder, does that match up with your little area of rotation? Matches up a little bit. Scan before that matched up a little bit as well. But you can see that rotation. It's staying fairly broad. It was a bit tight, a bit more pixel to pixel there, but it's staying fairly broad. If this does spin up a tornado, we're talking about a very, very, very weak and likely very brief spin up tornado. Not one that's going to cause too much damage, if any. Might just pick up a few leaves, you know? Nothing too crazy. But I would still watch it. And I would definitely watch that. You could see... kind of want to try to use our terminal again here. Really can't use our terminal that much. I don't really see any good spin here, but as this exits the radar, we might be able to see it a little bit better as it gets further away from our cone of silence, which is where storms are so close to the radar is actually inaccurate. So for sure, watching this area here as it heads to almost downtown Pittsburgh. And there you go. There you go. We do have a tornado warning now on our storm up here in Cranberry Township. You guys had a little heads up if you've been watching the stream. And now it's time to get to your safe spot. We called that out not but about 5-10 minutes ago. So, Sunflower, you barely escaped that. If you're in Sunflower, it's over you right now, but it is passing you. You're not in the tornado warning, so you don't actually have to seek shelter because it has passed you. But if you're in Unionville, time to get to your safe spot. That is an active tornado warning. Again, if this does spin up, it's likely to be very weak, very, very brief. And that area of rotation honestly doesn't look very good anymore. So we'll need to see if it re-intensifies. I feel like if it was going to drop a tornado, it would have done it about 5 minutes ago once it was more gate-to-gate towards Sunflower. Now it's very broad and looks even worse, as in weaker. But we still could get a tornado out of that, so get in your safe spot. And again, also watching down here towards Ross Township, watching that for some tornado potential as well. That'd be fun. That would be fun, Lucy. I don't know. I like driving into thunderstorms. Some people don't. What does cool outflow from an outflow boundary do before destabilization started? Will that affect anything? So do you mean like an outflow boundary passing through an area that is actively destabilizing? Sometimes, yes, that will do something. Especially if it is a stronger outflow boundary. Sometimes that can be a focal point for initiation later in the day, and can enhance tornado potential. And we have actually seen huge tornado threats come out of a scenario like that if the outflow boundary is strong enough. But if it's a weak boundary, it might not do anything. It just depends. If I take a look here, I don't know if it's an outflow boundary that's passed through this area. But outflow boundaries that do pass through, sometimes they can help add a capping because of the cool air. Sometimes it can do absolutely nothing. It just depends. It depends, you know. Depends on what scenario we're looking at. Depends what scenario we're looking at. I would say most of the time it doesn't play a big role. Most of the time, it does not play that big of a role. But sometimes, like on big severe weather outbreak days, if we have like an MCS roll through overnight or into the morning hours, sometimes it can leave a very strong stationary outflow boundary. Storms fire off that boundary. Storms hook on to that outflow boundary, and that outflow boundary can enhance vorticity in the atmosphere, which allows for a greater tornado threat. And we have seen strong to intense tornadoes form off of outflow boundaries because that outflow boundary was left by an MCS earlier in the day. So not too much rotation still with this storm in Unionville. It's looking a little bit worse every scan, which is very good, but you still want to be in your safe spot because this easily could spin up a tornado that is not detected by our radar site here. So even though I say it doesn't look very good and I'm not impressed with it anymore, that doesn't mean a tornado still can't occur out of it. It easily could just spin right back up and try to produce a tornado again as this heads towards Evans City, Cranberry Township, and eventually down towards Cooperstown out here in western Pennsylvania. Yeah, the northern line is expected to weaken. I think this is going to be our long duration MCS down in here. But this one up here towards Pittsburgh might be a little bit long duration too. We'll just have to watch how long it can last. I don't expect this to be much of a problem up here. This stuff I don't think will be much of a problem at all. The question is, how long will this line last going into Pennsylvania? And I expect this line to last the longest. And that's the one that I think could go all the way to DC before dying out here in about 4 or 5 hours. About 5 hours or so. The reason why is if we look at our instability, the instability is greatest on that southern line. So that southern line is going to be able to continue at least through northern Virginia. That northern one has the least instability, so I expect that to die out. And the one in the middle is kind of on that edge of the best instability of 2,000, 1,500 K. So that middle one might still be able to produce 40 to 60 mile an hour winds until central Pennsylvania. But that southern one I expect to produce anywhere between 50 to 70 mile an hour winds up until northern Virginia once it gets close to DC. It may die out before DC. It may make it into DC. It may die after DC. Somewhere around DC, it's going to weaken. Most likely. They do have that slight risk through the DC area, though, and all the way to the coastline. Still continuing with the severe thunderstorm warning here for Pleasant Garden out down here in North Carolina. See this big outflow boundary, so that actually could help choke off storms and could be a reason why these storms aren't long-lived and are weakening. They also are just summertime thunderstorms. They're summertime thunderstorms, which are more unpredictable and often blow up and die out very quickly and move direction rapidly. You can see just a loop of this shows you how that storm went through Chapel Hill. It died out very rapidly. The storm that was moving into Gibsonville started dying out and kind of changed location to Pleasant Garden, right? The northeast side of that fully died out and the southwest side of that intensified. So that's just your classic summertime thunderstorms. Not the type of thunderstorms I like to storm chase. They move too frequently with the greatest area of damaging winds. They shift too much. Yeah, so still a little area to keep an eye on for tornado potential, but it's not very concerning. And I don't see any good areas of spin yet up here. The area that I might watch is up here towards Duff City. I don't see much on velocity, maybe a little bit of some red and green there. But what catches my eye on that is it has an indent. Once more, like we explained earlier, you could see the pushing of winds from west to east, bowing out this front part of the storm. That front part of the storm is pushing against winds out ahead of it and surging those winds up north and creating a little indent right up in here. And that little indent allows for some winds to push into the storm as those winds are pushing against the storm, and you get a little area of spin to form because once more those winds pushing in, those winds pushing out creates a little area of spin on that little indent. So that would be an area to watch. We'll see if it intensifies or just dies out. That's over Duff City, heading towards McCandless and Wildwood, Hampton Township. That would be a little area to keep an eye on. But yeah, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, share this stream with your family, friends, social media. We'll be here for a little while, just covering these severe storms as they roll through the Pittsburgh area. And we'll see if we get a new severe watch downstream into central and eastern Pennsylvania. Also consider subscribing with that notification bell set to all if you are new, so you know when we go live or upload a video. And it helps support the channel and is greatly appreciated. Let's see here. All right, we did just get a mesoscale discussion for a downstream severe watch, which is exactly what I was just talking about. That just came in 50 seconds ago. Anything to be concerned about in Central Virginia tonight, in your opinion? I would be keeping an eye on two things depending on exactly where you are. I think what I would be watching the most is this little line here that is trying to form in West Virginia. And that could move into Central Virginia and still be severe because we have a lot of instability in the atmosphere. We have a lot of sunshine out there that's helping to build up all this instability, and thunderstorms love to eat all that up and intensify and maintain intensity. So I do think, yeah, watch out for some lightning, heavy rain, 60-mile-an-hour winds. I would keep an eye out for all those hazards towards Central Virginia. Depends exactly where you are, though, because if you're towards, like, Richmond, I think it's less likely. But if you're out here towards, like, Harrisonburg, back down to Lexington, I think it is more likely you guys could get some severe weather later on today here in about 3 hours or so. We got a new model run in, and I want to see what that has. You can see that doesn't keep the line going, but it does keep severe storms still going till 7 p.m. here. You have some storms to keep an eye out towards Harrisonburg, Charlottesville, and then some isolated storms even still continuing into Richmond, Farmville, even down towards Gretna at 9-10 p.m. Eastern time. Really the biggest threat is heavy rain, lightning, and some gusty winds. That's really it. There is a chance for tornadoes, though, and actually they've expanded that 2% pretty largely there. I don't remember it being such a large 2%, so I wouldn't rule out a tornado actually into somewhere in Virginia. That doesn't mean it's going to be over central or southern or northern Virginia, just somewhere in the state of Virginia. We can't rule out a brief weak spin-up tornado. The chance that that hits you is very slim to none. That's a 2% chance for a tornado every 25 miles of a given point. Which means once you take into account how many miles are in this 2%, there's a pretty good chance we get a tornado or two in Virginia. Yeah, not seeing much of that spin on this little indent here. Just a little indent. I would just keep an eye on it. Doesn't look like it's doing any of that spin stuff like it did last time. It looks pretty good for just damaging wind threat and not a tornado threat at the moment. Same for up here in Evans City. I don't see any need for this tornado warning anymore. We'll see if they cancel it or just keep it going. They canceled, I think they canceled the last one before it, no, it was allowed to expire. I don't know, we've had like 3 or 4 tornado warnings. I forgot which one was allowed to expire. I think this was the one allowed to expire. And I think this is the one they canceled right there. And then this is the newest one right up here towards Evans City. If you are in Evans City, just make sure you're in your safe spot just in case. It's still a tornado warning, so I'd still stay in my safe spot. But it doesn't look impressive on radar anymore, so just to ease your storm anxiety, even though you are in a tornado warning, I think a tornado is less likely now. If we did get a tornado out of this storm, like I mentioned earlier, I think it would have been somewhere near Unionville, Sunflower, somewhere right around there, Pulaski. somewhere back there, just before the tornado warning came in. But yeah, you could see this line here trying to form in Charleston. That could be long-lived, or it could separate up into individual cells. And then I expect this to be long-lived. I expect this to stay as a full line as it works its way all the way down into DC. And again, we did get that mesoscale discussion from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. So if we go back to our MCDs, if you don't know what this is, basically it is the some of the best meteorologists in the country outlining an area for specific potential, whether that be snow, rain, damaging winds, or tornado potential. In this particular mesoscale discussion, they have outlined northern and portions of central Virginia, all the way up to south central Pennsylvania and far northeastern West Virginia, for an increasing threat of 55 to 70 mile an hour winds and the likelihood of a severe thunderstorm watch being needed as storms move from West Virginia into Virginia and could continue to maintain intensity. They've also noted that a brief weak spin-up tornado or two is also possible in areas that could have a more southerly wind component to them. So, main threat, 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, but a brief tornado can't be ruled out. And you can also notice on the satellite imagery that they have displayed back here, there's a lot of clearing, not a lot of clouds out here. So, going to be able to get a lot of destabilization there. And that's our front. When storms pass that front, they're going to weaken. So we'll need to watch, does that front push towards DC, which I think it will, or does it stay more stationary? If it stays more stationary, storms are just going to die out after they pass that red warm front indicator there. But I do think that will move a bit closer to the DC area, and storms won't die out until closer to DC, closer to Richmond, closer to Fredericksburg than what is displayed on this map. But if you're in that blue area, expect a severe thunderstorm watch for the potential of very small hail, 55 to 70 mile an hour winds, and a brief tornado or two, all being possible. By the way, if you don't know, southerly component winds just means where the winds are coming from. You could see winds up here towards Pennsylvania are out of the southwest. That's not as favorable for tornadoes. Southwesterly winds are not the very, very favorable. They are somewhat favorable, but not the most favorable. Really, you like to see due southerly wind speeds are the most favorable for for tornadoes. So where we have those more southerly winds moving from south to north, which looks to be right in here, that may be where we have a locally greater opportunity for a brief tornado. And they also mentioned where shear may be locally greater, which it looks like the wind shear is the best after the warm front. But keep in mind, storms are likely not going to survive with no instability. So even though there's a lot of shear up here, there's not a lot of fuel. So storms are probably just going to die once they get into that area. So where that fuel and where that shear can meet, that's also a locally greater area. And you can see this is the supercell composite product, which combines different ingredients on the chance in the environment for a tornado out of roughly out of like 32, roughly. We've seen higher, but roughly about 32 supercell composite is roughly about as high as it goes. And you can see it has an outline of 4 roughly in this vicinity. So that's probably going to be where your best opportunity for a tornado or two will be later this evening. Not a very high chance. Not a very, very high chance. But if we can get good southerly winds, a discrete storm, or a line with an embedded area of rotation, we could get a brief tornado or two. It's not impossible. But I would be more concerned about the widespread wind threat. And once more, I think this line is just going to die out. I wouldn't be too concerned if I'm near Newcastle, pointing to the north. If I'm up here, just rain, isolated lightning strike or two, and 20, 30 mile an hour wind gusts possible. The main region to watch is by far with this more southern line. And again, with extent, this northern line will start to weaken over time. And that southern line is going to become the biggest problem. So we'll monitor that. But not looking at a very significant day for severe weather. It's just a lot of 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts. That's really what it looks like primarily. What are the odds I get a watch? Pretty high, actually. Pretty high. I would expect a severe watch for Missouri, and I would say you're probably going to be included in that. It's definitely a more late evening, early night threat. So don't expect a watch to be considered till, about, like I said, 4 or 5 central hour or so from now is when we might be talking about the chance for a watch to come out. But I think you'll get into a severe watch. What about flooding? Not a huge problem today, at least out here towards like Pennsylvania. But where these storms are training over each other in West Virginia, that's going to be a bit more of a problem. You can see how this line is rolling through, and we have storms behind that. So that could be where flooding could be a bit more significant. If we take a look at the forecast here for rainfall today, you can see that's where they're forecasting. If I switch back to that, I didn't mean to get rid of that. They're forecasting. Actually, this is not going to tell us. I'd assume that's roughly about like 2 to 3 inches of rainfall there. Oh, actually, no, this is hourly. Let's go to daily. There you go. There you go. There you go. Purple, that's this is up to 2 inches of rain here. So they're forecasting up to 2 inches of rain near Webster Springs, about 1.5 inches, 1.8 towards Fayetteville, West Virginia. And then back up here towards Pittsburgh, they're not really forecasting too much rain problems. So not that bad of rainfall. The area I'd be most concerned about for heavy rain is where that line's moving through from roughly Charleston all the way down to about Beckley, all the way back up towards Elkins, West Virginia. Yeah, severe watch, it depends greatly on how widespread the threat is and how intense the storms are going to be. I didn't see exactly how widespread those storms were, but if there's like a large line of severe storms rolling through, normally they will issue a severe watch because that's going to easily verify damaging wind potential. But sometimes they don't. Like, even out here in my neck of the woods, we've had quite the amount of severe weather out in here today. And I don't even think we got into a mesoscale discussion for severe weather potential. So, sometimes some of the best days that I've had for storm chasing has literally been with like a 5%, 20% mesoscale discussion. So I don't forecast based off of what the SPC is saying on if I should chase or not. I go based off of what the day looks like. Whether or not the SPC is going to issue a watch or not doesn't really apply to my thinking on a chasing perspective. As for the next few days for severe weather, we'll just continue to keep an eye out for a couple MCSs and damaging winds. We're definitely going to have to watch this area. Definitely got to watch this area for a big time wind threat to roll through tomorrow. There's uncertainty on how morning convection or how afternoon convection could actually affect it. Like if storms fire too early, that could allow for things to be a bit more messy. But tomorrow, definitely an area to watch is in the in southern Virginia, much of North Carolina, and a good chunk of Tennessee as well. I think that slight risk could be extended further off to the west. So don't be surprised if we wake up and that marginal is like way back up here into central Kentucky and that slight risk is almost towards Nashville. Would not surprise me one bit. So can't rule out up to 1 inch hail, up to 70 mile an hour winds. And I wouldn't even rule out a brief weak tornado. It's not impossible. I do not think it's likely, but it's not impossible that we get a brief weak spin up tornado tomorrow somewhere. And I think the best chance is if we get a line, which would be... think the best chance is probably going to be somewhere a little bit further to the north. Let me actually take a quick peek at something. Taking a quick peek at some model data. That way I don't give you inaccurate information. Let's see. Roll down here to... Gracious. Big wind threat tomorrow. Yeah, best chance is probably going to be like right in here for tornado potential. I'd say right in there is probably your best chance for tornado potential. Maybe a bit further into West Virginia. It depends how soon storms fire, but that would be probably the best chance for a brief spin up tomorrow if we can get a line going. And then actually, for some reason, the tornado potential apparently, according to a few different things here, may increase later today across northern Virginia. So keep an eye out if you are in the far northern portion of Virginia here, like just near Harrisonburg and on the northern edge. Watch out for a brief tornado or two. It seems very much possible that we could get a spin up tornado or two in this area between 6 p.m., about 2 hours from now, and 9 p.m. So watch that 3-hour time frame between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. in this area. 6 p.m. obviously being on the west side, 9 p.m. obviously being closer to DC and to the east, southeast. Proxy, have fun. Have fun. I do not expect to storm chase at all tomorrow. I'm not planning on it one bit whatsoever. I am not chasing tomorrow unless it looks like storms are further off to the east and more towards central North Carolina. And even then, I probably still won't. We've had a lot of wind threats. I've missed a lot of structure days, but got to choose your chases wisely. And if there's little to no tornado threat tomorrow, it's probably not worth the 4 or 5 hour trip. If I get another tornado warning, I'm blaming it on you for cursing me. That was a very good storm, too, for tornado potential. I was up towards Roanoke, and then I absolutely hightailed it down all the way down to Durham. I went from one of the craziest things I've ever done. I went from Salem, Virginia, storm fired right here, pretty much over my house, booked it all the way down to here. I've never done that before. Properly catching up to a storm. Literally like a 2.5 hour drive all the way down to Cary, Chapel Hill, Cary, right in that area. And somehow managed to get there just before it died out and ended up getting a very nice supercell structure. Yeah, tornado potential on these is definitely going down. They've actually removed the tornado possible tag on this now, so that's really good. This one looks like same case. I still wouldn't rule out a brief tornado or two, but I think the tornado threat is kind of paused for a bit here. So don't expect much tornadic potential in this area over the next 2 hours. Once these storms pass West Virginia, that's when the tornado potential is going to go up. This storm up here in Pennsylvania, this is just going to die out. So I would be watching these cells in here as they move into Northern Virginia and Western Maryland. Right in here for tornado potential and starting in about 2 hours from now. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm glad to have you in here. Yesterday. Literally, name is Yesterday. There was a funnel. Yeah. I was all over the place because I lost directions thanks to horrible cell reception.
Emergency has been issued.
That's a flash flood emergency for Colorado. So we have a flash flood emergency for Colorado. No kidding there. For the next 3 hours. Has this supercell just been like stationary? Not really. You're telling me a storm like that can cause a flash flood emergency? Wow. 1.5 inches of rain. How easy does this area flood? 1 to 1.5 inches of rain has already fallen, and that warrants a flash flood emergency. Gracious. That means this area must flood very, very easily. Probably a big mudslide occurring in that area. Man, that's wild. If only like 1 to 2 inches of rain causes catastrophic flooding out there. Gracious. I need to switch my flash flood emergency to this. There you go. Now you can see that better. I don't know why I had it white on white. So that severe thunderstorm watch, by the way, that should be issued for a good chunk of northern and central Virginia going into extreme southern Pennsylvania and into western and maybe central Maryland. That will be coming out here within an hour and 30 minutes. Within an hour and 30 minutes. So I would assume as these storms hit the edge, that's when the watch is going to come out. So right when these severe storms hit the edge of this severe watch, which is in about an hour, I would expect a severe watch to come out for... I feel like that storm in Pittsburgh is going to die. So I would say expect a severe watch to come out in this area here. Roughly in this area here. Maybe not that far south. It might not include Lynchburg. But roughly expect a severe watch in that area to come out here in about an hour. Butler, Pennsylvania. Definitely the chance for very heavy rain. Up to 60 mile an hour winds. Although you are on the northern side of this, which it looks like the strongest portion of the severe is on the southern side. So you probably won't get much more than about 20, 30 mile an hour winds here. But no tornado potential up here, thankfully. I do think we had a tornado or two earlier in eastern Ohio and southwestern Pennsylvania, but thankfully no tornado potential with that particular storm. Got slammed earlier. Well, hopefully you're all good. And opinion on day 3, I still haven't looked at it that much. I could tell you right off the bat, they don't have a hatch risk out from last time I checked. They have a hatched risk out now. You can't make that up. They actually just updated it 20 minutes ago and added a hatched risk. And first glance at the models, I can already tell you why. Hail potential. Hail and damaging wind potential. If storms are discrete, you could be looking at some giant hail. Maybe even upwards of 2.5, 3 inches in diameter. And damaging winds could approach 80 miles per hour if storms fire into a line. They were almost pulled a 30% Seg 1 out here. So we almost got a day 3 enhanced. Almost got a day 3 enhanced risk out in this area. Which I would have to imagine would be for both hail and wind, because it doesn't look too shabby. The tour risk, this is for what, Tuesday? Actually doesn't look that bad. I would say reasonable probability. My guess is 5% tour, 30 Sig 1 wind, 30 or 15%. Yeah, I would say 15 Sig 1 hail, 30 Sig 1 wind, and 5% tour. That's roughly what it looks like for Tuesday based on models. Just so that way I don't have to go very in depth. I could just give you my general thoughts on it, probability wise. And actually, depending on the timing of this, this might have derecho potential. Let me check your 500 millibar trough. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Heck yeah, this has derecho potential. If that trough is fast enough and you got enough cape set up on an instability axis, you could get a derecho that goes from southeast Nebraska, north central Kansas, all the way down to almost the St. Louis area. Tuesday afternoon and evening. And what's crazy is that's where the marginal stops. So, yeah, like StormNet right now, StormNet has fairly high damaging wind probabilities for this far out, fairly high damaging wind probabilities in this area, which is in the slight risk into the marginal. And it doesn't stop those decent probabilities until down here. Way down here. So let me show you what I'm looking at here to decide that I wanted to call out this potential for even a derecho being possible or a very long-lived MCS. So there's a few things here that I would watch. This is huge. This is the type of trough that gets you a derecho. This is the exact type of trough that gets you a derecho. Matter of fact, we had a derecho in southern Wisconsin out of a trough just like this. So you have a bowling ball trough rapidly ejecting across the north central northeastern U.S., swinging rapidly across like this. And at the very tail end of that, you have a shortwave trough latched onto it with a high pressure ridge that is going to continue to funnel it down to the southeast. So that is a very good setup for MCS potential, depending on exactly when the trough arrives. Hail, tornadoes at first, and isolated 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. It grows upscale. The hail threat comes down. The wind threat increases to upwards of 90 mile an hour winds. A few tornadoes still remain possible, and that tracks all the way until central southeastern Missouri. But it depends greatly on timing. If we look at another model, let's look at just the GFS, for instance, here. GFS a little bit faster, actually, with that. A little bit faster with that. So we'll have to see. It looks like Cape is very uncertain. Very, very uncertain. But yeah, you can see the NAM. Looks like the NAM continues a pretty decent severe threat from southern Nebraska here Tuesday night all the way until Wednesday morning in southern Missouri. But it comes down to that Cape, because that Cape doesn't look very good. So that would be what I watch. I'm watching, that's probably the number one thing I'm watching. I'm watching where the Cape sets up and how much it is, and then a very close second would be that 500 millibar trough. Because if that Cape is too late, I mean, I don't know what the Canadian is doing here. The Canadian really doesn't have much of a shortwave develop, so the shortwave's a little bit late on the Canadian, and that means that your severe potential isn't too crazy. Let's look at the NAM3K. No surprise there. Starts as a couple supercells, tornado potential, and then I would imagine if this would go out any further, that would probably grow up into a messy line, depending on your instability, yeah. So that would probably grow up into a line right in here, and then weaken as it gets into southeast Kansas. But that's a very different scenario than what like StormNet has right now. So we'll need to keep an eye on that to see how it trends. Models are kind of split. Looks like models are a little bit split here. Some show huge potential, some show full-blown bust. So if things work out, you could actually get a derecho out of this, but on the latter half of things, you could actually just end up with an underperforming risk. Tuesday. A few models like it. The only thing that doesn't really like it is CSU. CSU is not a big fan of it. And another thing that's not a big fan of it is these models that we're looking at right now. The instability is very misaligned, which kind of leads me to think that maybe I shouldn't be trusting the other two that I'm using. So right now, I think a derecho is possible, but my more conservative thoughts would be very large hail, significant damaging winds, and a few tornadoes possible. They may not be on the weaker side, depending on that 500 millibar trough. If it is good enough, we could even get some, maybe a little strong tornado potential. Then growing upscale into a short-lived MCS. The high end would definitely be that MCS growing, those storms growing more upscale, and then that MCS actually tracking longer, maybe even into as far as Illinois. But that's what I would expect. So I would expect the potential for a few tornadoes, up to 80 mile an hour winds, maybe even up to 90, depending on that MCS's length, and up to 3-inch hail. I would expect all of that to be possible, specifically in this region here. Specifically in this region here. That might extend even a little bit further southeast. That could go even all the way down into southern and western Illinois, depending on the timing of that trough. But that area that I have circled in white, I think that's where your greatest potential for up to 3-inch hail, a few tornadoes, and 80 to possibly 90 mile per hour winds will be possible. Do you think there will be possibility for a tornado outbreak today? No. Tuesday, I don't even think has tornado outbreak potential. I think we could see a few tornadoes, maybe one strong, depending on wind shear on Tuesday and the temperature dew point spread. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center for Tuesday says severe storms capable of large hail and damaging wind gusts are expected on Tuesday. They don't mention much of a tornado threat, but I do think a tornado threat will be quite plausible, depending on that temperature dew point spread. So either, for the strong tornado potential, by the way, two things can happen. Either your temperatures are very high, which results in ginormous hail, like I said, 3-inch in diameter being possible, or your temperatures aren't too high, which allows your temperatures and dew points to be closer to each other, allowing for a better opportunity for tornadoes. So either you have elevated ginormous hail, or you have surface-based supercells with a little bit less hail, but better tornado potential. Either way, tornadoes will be possible when those storms grow upscale into the MCS like they've done today. Tornadoes will be possible. But once storms grow upscale into an MCS, that strong tornado potential on Tuesday will be very slim. And tomorrow, I would like to see how instability performs in the morning, but I do believe if we look at the wind risk here, I do think that we could get a 30%. I think this 15% wind could come up a little bit more to the north and to the west. I think that 5% can come up a pretty good amount to the north and west. And I think a 30% contour for damaging winds could be added right across this area. Right across the southern Appalachian Mountains. For tomorrow. And then actually another thing that doesn't look too shabby. Wednesday and Thursday, the continuation of that damaging wind threat on Wednesday, as that MCS dies out Tuesday night, moving into Wednesday morning, we could have some refiring thunderstorms. We don't have an outlook for it right now. There's no 15%. But I would be watching this vicinity and here for some severe storms on Wednesday. And then it doesn't stop there. I would actually be watching back towards the eastern U.S. Now, I don't know how far to the west this may be, but right now it looks like for Thursday, we would want to watch roughly this area here on Thursday for some pretty decent damaging wind potential. And that might stop right at proxy. So you have multiple days. So for today, your biggest threat for severe weather is right in here. That's where your best threat for severe weather is for today. You also have some other areas back out in here, but I'm talking about mainly for the central and eastern U.S. I'm not really talking about for back out here towards the mountain range. There's also some isolated chances for a few severe storms back out in this vicinity as well for today. Tomorrow, that shifts into the southern and southeastern U.S. where I think the greatest severe threat will be focused in this vicinity here. I think that's where the greatest severe threat will be focused for tomorrow, which again is Monday. Tuesday, I think that severe threat shifts greatly off to the northwest and will be focused in this corridor here. Wednesday shifts off to the southeast again and will shift roughly into this vicinity for Wednesday. And then Thursday, back to the eastern US, probably roughly up in here for severe weather on Thursday. So that's your general thinking for the severe threat over the next few days. The greatest tornado potential will likely exist tomorrow. I don't see much at all in terms of good tornado potential, but I wouldn't rule out a few tornadoes tonight up in this area as those storms re-intensify and enter a little bit better wind shear, a little bit more with that warm front. And those temperatures come down towards sunset, and those southerly winds increase once you get closer to Harrisonburg, in between Harrisonburg and DC. Wouldn't rule out a few tornadoes there. Tomorrow, I think, has very little tornado potential. And then Tuesday, I think, out of the whole week, I think out of the entire week, the next 5 or so days of severe weather, I think Tuesday has the greatest opportunity for tornadoes. And that greatest opportunity will be focused both with the semi-discrete storms as they first fire, and then as storms grow upscale into an MCS. So like the first bit of that, that's going to be when storms are discrete. And then the second bit would be where storms are more of a line. I think Tuesday has the greatest potential out of any day this entire week. And it looks like we might have some tornado potential up in Minnesota on Thursday, but nothing too crazy. It'd be in far northeastern Minnesota. Newest outlook came out, obviously, for today. Let's see. So no major changes to the outlook for today. This is the old outlook. I'm comparing the two on my other monitor. The biggest change is simply just trimming probabilities. They have trimmed the slight risk in this area. The slight risk has been trimmed in this region because the main event has already passed through Ohio and into western Pennsylvania now. Let's see. Ongoing convection with the ongoing. I can't English. Ongoing convection within the upper Ohio Valley vicinity continues eastward this afternoon. Behind the area of convection, buoyancy has been reduced, as well as an increase in stable air. Wind probabilities have been reduced as such, though some isolated strong storms could still occur. The forecast remains relatively on track with only very minor changes to the general thunderstorm forecast and those trimmed probabilities behind the ongoing MCS in western Pennsylvania. So there you go. We also did just get a new severe watch, big old severe watch out here on the east side of the Rockies. Let's take a look here. That's going to be for the potential of 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, and the biggest threat is actually the potential for upwards of 2 to 2.5 inch hail. So roughly upwards of 2 inch hail possible today on the eastern side of the Rockies. You can see why a lot of these are very high DBZ storms. So if they can maintain, easily could end up getting isolated 2 inch hail outside of that severe watch in the pink area. Let's see. We can go back over to Hawaii, see what our tropical storm Lala still chugging along out here. Still has a fairly well-defined eye here. Very well-defined northern eye wall. For those of you who didn't watch the some of the coverage yesterday, Lala made just to the south, it barely missed the big island of Hawaii, but it made a very historic pass to the south of the big island of Hawaii. Upwards of 30 inches of rain fell over the eastern portions of Hawaii. Very significant landslides, mudslides, and very, very catastrophic flash flooding has been observed out there. We had wind gusts upwards of 127 miles per hour on higher elevations, and sustained winds were up to 80, 85 miles per hour in the northern eye wall towards Hawaiian Ocean view and just to the south. According to the NHC, it was supposed to go a little bit more out to sea a bit quicker. I think it was supposed to move almost due west like that and continue out to sea. But instead, it took a bit of a northern turn. And as it was passing about 25 miles to the south of the Big Island, it really went very, very close to the other islands and have shifted up to the north. So it's made a much more historic path there, tracking much closer to all the islands, and in result, really increasing the impact significantly of these islands in here. And now this very last few islands of the island chain here on the northwest side of Hawaii starting to feel the worst of the impacts here as this makes its closest approach to those islands. But it's made a very, very historic journey over the last 24 hours or so. And it was Hurricane Lala. That was, I believe, the first time the big island of Hawaii had observed sustained hurricane force wind speeds on land. But we didn't have landfall. It was not landfall. However, it was hurricane force wind speeds because the eye wall still was on land, but the actual low pressure where the eye was didn't hit land. The low pressure has to hit land for landfall, but the eye wall was on land, which brought those hurricane force sustained wind speeds on shore. Gonna watch for locally greater damaging wind potential of 65 miles per hour out here with this storm on the West Virginia and southwestern Pennsylvania border. Maybe even a brief spin-up tornado possible with that. And we still do have a little areas here of some very dark red, very light red rather, into pink colors here, indicating damaging winds still near 60 miles per hour. So we might see a new severe come out here soon for areas towards like South Bend, White, Derry, Blairsville, Indiana. Those areas could get into a severe thunderstorm warning in west southwestern Pennsylvania. That will probably be the last severe thunderstorm warning if it is issued out of this line, because I think it will weaken after that. Do you think I'm done for the day now that I'm out of a severe warning? Where are you, Logan? I don't know exactly where you are. If you're out towards western, southwestern Pennsylvania, might still have an isolated gust roll through later today, but you're relatively done out there. Let's see. We should be getting a new severe watch pretty soon. Downstream here into Virginia. That should come out within the next about 45 minutes or so. No news on a severe watch being considered for Missouri, but I do expect if you live in Missouri, especially if you live on the... Give me a second to load this. Especially if you live towards Jefferson City, California, down towards Rolla, Steelville, Pulaski, Farmington, Ironton, Centerville, Union, the southwest side of St. Louis. I would definitely expect a severe watch. I think they will issue a severe watch roughly in this vicinity here. Roughly in this vicinity here. Yeah, you'll probably end up in a severe watch by like one county, Misty. You'll probably be like either one county in or one county out. You'll be right on the edge. But yeah, I do expect a severe watch to come out there. Maybe a little bit more to the east too. Maybe a little bit more like this. A little bit more like that. Actually, it wouldn't be going into Tennessee. Try to get a good circle here. More like this. There you go. There you go. More like that. That's an area where I think we will have a severe thunderstorm watch later today. Might not go that far to the south, but you get the general idea. I expect at least a severe watch in this rough area later today. Yeah, I think the HRRR is relatively correct. I would expect widespread 40 to 60 mile an hour winds and even a gust up to 70. Wouldn't rule out a tornado, and also wouldn't rule out up to 1 inch hail. Let me see. Yeah, NATOcast has a 30% wind just south of St. Louis. Barely south of St. Louis. So Lucy's probably going to get a good storm. And as for the tornado threat, the greatest tor threat, definitely possible. Definitely possible we see a brief tornado or two out in this area. But a lot of models and a lot of AI outlook or AI integrated outlooks have really been hinting towards that greatest tornado threat really being focused in this area. And the reason for that is because of the boundary. You have a warm front that is right in here. So you have a lot of moist, highly unstable atmosphere out here. And you have a highly sheared atmosphere out here. And so right where those two meet, right on that border, that's going to be right where your greatest tornado potential is going to be located. So I would expect at least a tornado or two, maybe even a little bit more than that. Weak brief spin ups up there in this area I have circled, which if we go to the map, very roughly this region. Louisville, if you're talking about Kentucky, nothing too rough. Nothing too rough. The worst severe weather has so far stayed well to your east. And the new severe weather that will spark up in Missouri, I think will stay to your west and die out before it gets to tonight. So I wouldn't rule out some isolated 40 mile an hour wind gusts around Louisville later today. But I wouldn't expect too much. The worst severe threat I expect to be here and up here. That's where I expect the two corridors of the greatest severe weather potential for the rest of the day. Wow, this has actually been producing quite the damaging wind event out here across Illinois. Look at that trail of damaging wind reports behind it. So this storm has a history of producing damaging winds. If you are out here towards Newman, Westville, Grandview, Charleston, in East Central Illinois, definitely get away from doors and windows. This storm easily could be packing 60 mile an hour winds, and I believe it's observed. Yeah, observed 60 mile an hour wind severe there. So we are expecting damaging winds out of that. And we just got our mesoscale discussion. A 60% chance for a severe watch. I do think one will be issued. I'm not sure why that's actually 60%. I think it should actually be like a 80 or 95% because I do think we'll get very notable severe weather out here in the form of damaging winds. Increasing severe threat late this afternoon into evening. A watch is possible. So if you're in that area, expect a severe watch to come out. I think that is that. I don't know if that includes you or not, Misty. I want to say that like barely includes you. I forgot where it is. It should be an other. Or is it at the very bottom? It's at the very bottom. Oh, just to your south. Still, your county could get in it. because there's a little red there, which means if they issue a severe watch, it will either be for the entire county up here, or it would be just for just to your south for that county. But roughly, if you're in that red area, expect a severe thunderstorm watch to be issued here over the next 2 hours. What I missed, they just issued your mesoscale discussion. Just a couple seconds ago, it just came out. 60% chance for a watch. Which, in my opinion, I think one should have. I think we should get a severe watch, and I'm actually surprised it's not much higher than just 60%. I would 100% expect a severe watch to come out unless something goes exponentially wrong with the environment, which nothing looks wrong with the environment right now. So again, if you're in that red area, expect a severe watch to come out. And that will be out, by the way, the timing on that. A severe watch should be issued before 6:15 Eastern, 5:15 Central. So within the next 2 hours, you should be put under a severe watch if you're in that area, especially if you're dead center. If you're dead center towards like Jefferson City, you should be in it almost guaranteed. Rolla, Union, Farmington, Hillsborough, St. Louis, Lebanon, you guys are pretty much guaranteed inside that severe watch if it does indeed come out, which I think it will. But if you're towards the edge of that, the little edges of that red polygon right in here, sometimes you can be one county in or one county out. So the closer you are to the center of that red area, the higher chance you are to be into that severe watch when it gets issued, which again, I expect it to be issued. And what's more, I wouldn't be surprised actually if we get a good MCS rolling. What's the downdraft over here? I wouldn't be shocked with 80-mile-an-hour winds in this. I would not be shocked with 80-mile-an-hour winds. Look at this. This is a good setup. I'm not sure why this actually isn't a 30% wind threat. You've got a good low that is set up here. Good southerly winds helping to aid in instability. A large plume pocket here of high instability right across the bulk of your main risk area. And that low pressure, of course, you've got a front up in here, front down in here, so you've got forcing. So this is a very good setup for severe weather if you live right in here. This is a very, very good setup. I'll do a little better circle than that. Right in here. Very good setup for damaging winds, upwards of 80-mile-an-hour winds, a brief tornado or two, and up to 1-inch hail. And look at the downdraft cape, too. That's why I think we could get a lot of significant damaging winds, actually. We could get significant damaging winds, upwards of 80 miles per hour. Because you've got 1,500 D cape, 1,400, 1,200 right in here. So most of the main risk area is probably at between 12 to 1,500 D cape in this area. And of course that will spread to the northeast over the next 2 to 4 hours. And Illinois will even get into that 1,500 D cape. And very moist atmosphere. Anywhere between, in the main risk area, 72 to 81, roughly, dew points. Very, very moist. Let me go see real quick. Check your ZDR, your spectrum width. Matches up. So yeah, that's been a unwarned tornado for a while there. So if you are in this area, I'm very late to this because this is probably lifting at this point. But there was just an unwarned tornado right through this region from Orchard Hills just to the southeast of Spring Church and southwest of Shady Plain. Probably lifting at this point now. Yeah, most likely lifted at this point, but a brief, weak, unwarned tornado just occurred in that circled area in western Pennsylvania. And it's still not even a Tor possible severe either. So not even a Tor possible severe. We just had a tornado unwarned fully in that area. Quite confident that was a unwarned tornado. Really not sure what else that would be. That's a pretty clear-cut unwarned tornado right there. Pretty clear-cut unwarned tornado. Thankfully, likely on the weaker side of things. Likely on the weaker side of things. Where should a 30% be? So, I would say, based on everything that I have seen, I would give the best opportunity for damaging winds where I would put a 30%. I don't know why the slight risk isn't further to the south. I would put the slight risk further to the south for sure. But I would say 30% roughly from St. Louis all the way back to Jefferson City, back down towards Farmington, and then back into Western Illinois. Right there. I would put a good size 30% in that area. I think we should have a 30% wind. I would say a 30% SIG 1, but the thing is, there is, like, if storms are a little bit more messy and more clustered, that significant wind threat may not verify, but yeah, some models have up to 80 mile an hour winds today, so I'm not too sure why there's not a 30%. And actually, I might have that 30% a little bit more north. It'd be roughly in that vicinity. I'm actually going to make a outlook on this. I'll actually make an outlook on this and see how it verifies. I like to do that every now and then because I do think I can make an outlook that verifies better than the SPC for today. One of my best outlooks that I made was the derecho we just had. I had a very long moderate. I sent it to Lucky the night prior. I made an outlook at 11 p.m. the night before that derecho, and they verified perfectly. I missed a little sliver towards Charleston. I should have had my enhanced further to the east, but that was one of my best outlooks I've ever done. Which, by the way, the wind reports from that now are absolutely mind-boggling. Just look at that. Absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. And I had my moderate placement was from eastern Iowa all the way through down to here. Like, I kid you not. I'm not even joking. I literally had it. That's how good I had it. I'm not even joking. Not even joking. "12 tornado reports too from it, and I did have a 5% tour as well, which unfortunately I had my 5% tour all the way down to like the border of Kentucky and Tennessee, so the 5% down there didn't verify. But in terms of wind, that was the best outlook I had. So yeah, I would say a 30% wind risk should be in place roughly across this area. I think it's going to verify perfectly as a 30%, especially because of 3 reasons: Jefferson City, St. Louis, and Aurora. You've got 3 populated areas, especially St. Louis, and wind threats are heavily population biased. If you've got a 60 mile an hour storm rolling through New York City with over 10 million some people, you're going to get who knows how many reports, 100 wind reports if it's a solid damaging 60 mile an hour wind storm. And if you get a 60 mile an hour severe out in the middle of Kansas or Nebraska, you may not get but 1 or 2 random reports from a local person or from a chaser. Yeah, there's a website where you could create your own outlook. I have a tab in our Discord server where you can make your own outlooks and post them in there. Where is, let me see. There we go. Give me just a second. All right, there we go. Sure, I'll give y'all the Outlook Maker. I'm not able to show it on stream, but it's a good site, so I'm gonna send it. I like it, but you're not able to show it on stream. I'm sure I could just contact the person and try to get permission, but I haven't attempted to do that yet. I like this site a lot. Takes a little getting used to. It's a little finicky, but I enjoy using it. Will there be a tornado in Richmond, Virginia? I can't say if there will or won't, but I can say that most likely not. Most likely not. There's a very, very low chance. The area where I'm watching the greatest chance for a tornado threat for the rest of today is right in this vicinity. So I think it will stay to the north of Richmond. I can't guarantee that you will or won't, but I don't believe so. From the model data that I have and from what I'm looking at, I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it at the moment. So yeah, if you guys haven't already, it will be greatly appreciated if you could hit that like button and share this live stream with your family, friends, social media, anybody you know in the risk area. And if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button with a notification bell set to all. It's really appreciated and help support the channel. And again, make sure you hit that notification bell set to all so you know when we go live or upload a video. Videos are pretty far and few between. Typically only do one video every week or two. But live streams, especially in more active periods, we can be live every day for weeks on end in tornado season, depending on how bad it gets. Did you go over Tuesday at all? Sorry, just hopped on. Yep, I did, but I don't mind just briefly going over it again. Basically, there's two scenarios, both of which are quite significant. The main area to watch is in this area right in here. That's the region I have my eye on the most. Two scenarios. One scenario ends up with a bigger hail threat. One scenario ends up with a bigger tor threat. If temperatures are not as high as expected, then the tornado threat could increase, maybe even to a brief strong tornado being possible, which in that case, a few tornadoes, one strong, up to 2.5-inch hail, and up to 80-mile-an-hour winds will be possible. Another scenario is those temperatures are higher than expected, maybe resulting in more instability and a better opportunity for hail and damaging winds. In that case, we would have the chance for a brief tornado or two, very large hail, maybe up to potentially even a little higher than, rather larger than 3 inches in diameter, and wind gusts upwards of 90 miles per hour. There is also the potential for a derecho on this day, but only very select few models are hinting at it. There's no clear-cut agreement just yet on derecho potential, but there is some tiny little hints towards the opportunity of a long-lived MCS. So storms will fire, be a very good hail threat, pretty good wind threat, maybe a tornado threat, depending on how high those temperatures are, and then congeal up into a line with still continuing as a tornado threat and a much greater wind threat and lower hail threat. But there is still some uncertainty.
A warning has been issued.
We're getting a new model run in now, but it is so all over the place, it's really not worth going over. Let's go to that tornado warning, though. First one in a hot minute. I believe this is for the storm that, at least close to the storm that produced an unwarned tornado. I think it's just to the south. Yeah, our unwarned tornado earlier, I believe tornado, was up here. And our new tornado warning is just to the south of that, down here off your screen towards Blairsville. So get to your safe spot. Not a particularly strong area of rotation. However, we have probably had 2 or 3 tornadoes today, and none of them have come from strong areas of rotation. So make sure you just get to your safe spot if you're in that tornado warning. It's a very short duration tornado warning, only 24 minutes. So just take 24 minutes out of your day and it could save your life. It's really not that big of a deal. If you just seek shelter, just seek shelter. That's the big thing. Tornado warnings are very dangerous when you don't pay attention. If you are paying attention and you are in your safe spot and seeking shelter, they're like nothing. They really are. I know they cause a lot of storm anxiety and a lot of anxiety, but as long as you are heeding your warnings, weather aware, and you acknowledge when a tornado warning is issued and you take appropriate action, you're fine. You're completely fine. I've been through at least 3 or 4 tornado warnings up here. Only one of them resulted in a tornado, and the thing was so weak it just lifted off a little bit of shingles around close to my neck of the woods. It barely did any notable damage. Remember, only roughly 1 or even less than 1% of tornadoes are actually intense and violent enough to do significant, very significant damage. I think it's only like less than 1% tornadoes are violent. Out of all the tornadoes we've ever had, less than 1% of them are violent. So the chance of a tornado warning, there's different levels to it too. So if you're in a radar indicated tornado warning, there's a very high chance if you're seeking shelter, you will be perfectly fine. If you're in an observed tornado warning, okay, now it's a little bit more dire. You better make sure you're in that safe spot because that's a confirmed tornado warning. Then you have PDS. That's that rare percent. You know, that's only like a handful of tornado warnings a year are PDS. That's where you have a strong tornado, typically EF2 to EF3 intensities on the ground, and that can start doing some pretty significant damage. And then you have that rare tornado emergency where there is a observed catastrophic tornado, typically the 1% ordeal tornado inside of that tornado emergency. And thankfully, not many people are end up under tornado emergencies per year. Down here in Southern Virginia, we ain't ever had one, so we don't have to worry about those. So as long as you just take appropriate action to your tornado warnings, they're not that big of a deal. Just please be indoors, away from doors and windows, and in your safe spot. Don't go outside. Don't look out the window and out the door. The only reason you should be outside if you're in front of a tornado warning is to get your pets in and make sure your family members are inside. I know it's tempting to go out on your front porch, put a chair down and watch the storm roll through, but not recommended. Just seek shelter, you will be fine. Let's see here. Tomorrow just downtrended a bit on StormNet, but I still think it holds that we could get a 30% wind risk right over the Appalachians, eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, far southwest West Virginia, far western Virginia, and far western North Carolina. I think we could get a 30% wind tomorrow. So again, just be in your safe spot. If you're in your safe spot, you will be fine, because if this storm drops a tornado, it's likely to be extremely weak and likely to be brief. So it will be no problem as long as you're in that safe spot. Got to be in that safe spot. That's very, very important. We just got that severe thunderstorm watch. I just got the notification from my local National Weather Service out here, Blacksburg, Virginia. Let's go ahead and close some tabs here. Get this over here. Get this over here. Put this up here. Reorganizing. Put that over there. And let's go to the watch here and scroll out. So, new severe thunderstorm watch just got issued. If you're out here in central to northern Virginia, you just heard it go over your weather radio or maybe your phone. Or in central southern Pennsylvania, new severe watch has been issued for this location here. In this pink area, that's a new severe thunderstorm watch. It does indeed include Washington, D.C., It does indeed include Harrisonburg, exactly where we were expecting, down to Lexington, and barely outside of Richmond, Virginia. Richmond not included in that severe watch. The probabilities on this watch, the chance for a tornado, only a 10% chance for 2 or more tornadoes, not a 0% chance for a strong tornado. So we can't completely toss the chance for a brief strong tornado in the trash can. It's very unlikely, but it is not theoretically impossible. The chance for damaging winds is the biggest problem. 40% chance that we get 10 or more damaging wind events at or greater than 58 miles per hour. And a 20% chance one of those is roughly or a little bit less than 75 miles per hour. Also, hail. Am I on the right watch? This isn't the right watch. I knew it. Once I saw hail, I knew it was a different watch. So this is actually the watch in the Rockies, which I didn't go over either. So for the Rockies, and that's your hail probability, there is a 50% chance for 10 or more 1-inch hail events, and a 20% chance one of those is at or less than 2 inches in diameter. So why is there a strong tor threat out there? Hold on, let's go to the one in here. That's the one in Virginia. And there you go. Actually, a little bit higher tornado probabilities in that. So 20% chance for 2 or more. We still good, y'all? Are we alive? How much of that cut out? Okay, there you go. We're back. We are back. I don't know what that was. We lost signal for about 10 seconds. But as I was saying, actually a good chance for 2 or more tornadoes, 60% chance for 58 mile an hour winds or greater. And that hail threat, very low. Only 1-inch hail can't be ruled out. Not too crazy there for the hail threat. But glad we're still live. I don't know what happened there. Just randomly cut out. I'd rather have it cut out for 5 seconds than fully end this stream. So thank you guys for saying yes in the chat, by the way. Appreciate it. Thank you, Silly, Logan, Foreman, and Pete. Yeah, I think just like about 5-10 seconds cut out. Just cut out a little bit of me reading the watch probs. Not that bad. What's really annoying is now I don't know how long I've been live for. That's what's annoying. Whoa. We have another discrete supercell forming in north of Pittsburgh. Yeah, northwest. These storms will just have isolated lightning, heavy rain, 40 mile an hour winds possible. 118 minutes ago. All right. Yeah, I can still see it on my other end, but I'm not going to be able to end on my perfect half hours that I like to end on. We still have this line continuing. It weakened for a little bit, but it's right back up there to sustaining severe. If we kind of roll this back a bit, you could see it almost went sub-severe right at this point. It was almost going sub-severe, and now we've gotten some bigger severe warnings issued out here. So just as expected, a long-tracked MCS ongoing with 40 to 60 mile an hour winds and gusts as high as 70 being possible. Can't fully rule out an 80 mile an hour wind gust, but it doesn't seem likely. If we have an 80 mile an hour wind gust today, it's probably going to come from a random storm out here in near the Rockies, or maybe from a random storm like near St. Louis, because it really doesn't look that bad towards St. Louis here. We go to our newest HRRR. Yeah, fairly significant. Fairly significant chance for damaging winds, at least upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour, but maybe even isolated up to 80. And you can see that continues even into southwestern Indiana there. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at a good, solid threat for severe weather in this entire vicinity here. Good, solid, severe threat. And I think that highest threat is definitely around the St. Louis area. We go back to our mesoanalysis here. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back to our blue box. And you can see that cape that's very close to St. Louis, that little corridor of higher instability just in front of the low pressure, just south of the front and east of the front. So we have two fronts here. We have our, of course, low pressure. We have our cold front that stretches down in here. And you have your warm front here in the yellow that stretches up into this vicinity. And it looks like maybe it goes back down. Maybe just a weak warm front. What is the... might be a warm front, cold front. What does the SPC say? Yeah, double front. It's actually a double front. So they have a front that goes here, and then it actually stretches up like this. And there's actually, according to them, a second front here near Jefferson City that kind of goes down like this and then up and back up into Illinois and Indiana. So you have a cold front back here and a cold front, warm front in the yellow, two of them. And that two of them actually, that really pinpoints a bit more of your bullseye there. Your bullseye there is going to be just in front of those double fronts. So that really pinpoints your greatest chance for damaging winds. Why not enhanced? Maybe the SPC just doesn't think it's going to do much. And then there's your fronts in correlation to. Is that correct? I just want to double check again. Yeah, there you go. In correlation to your D cape there. And I mean, that's perfectly in the 1500 D cape, which if you don't know what that is, that's just downdraft cape. Basically just allows for more significant damaging winds. But we have seen significant damaging winds with lower D cape before. So it's not the most important thing. And you can see you have you have a lot of supercell composite there. That's because of it's right next to 3 different fronts, so definitely can't rule out a tornado or 2 there. Very good setup. A very, very good setup. If we're talking about like a low end slight risk, it is a low end slight risk. And for that, it's a very good setup. Look at that. You have pretty high lapse rates too. So I'm yet to see a reason on why this isn't a enhanced risk. There's not the best amount of bulk wind shear, so maybe they don't think too much of a long tracked MCS or something is possible. A more concentrated area of damaging wind potential may materialize this evening should storms merge into an MCS. So there's a little bit of uncertainty on a MCS actually forming out of this, but even if we don't get an MCS, we have so much instability that just storms on their own should be able to produce damaging winds and maybe even significant. Could it go enhanced later? Nah. 9 p.m. No. No, 4 o'clock update, 49 minutes ago rather, was really the last chance. There will still be severe weather ongoing with this after 9 p.m. Yeah, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. The worst severe threat is from 6 p.m. Central. 6 p.m. Central to 10 p.m. Central. And the SPC outlook comes out at 8 Central. But I highly doubt it. It really wouldn't do much good to issue a enhanced risk at that late, you know? The only time you want to do that is if you have like an early morning threat that starts like 3 hours before the next day's outlook is valid. Which they did that. I believe they did that for the enhanced risk up there in Iowa and Nebraska the day before the derecho began in eastern Iowa technically last week. Just got a report from the flash flood emergency of heavy floodwater flow across heavy debris and propane tanks. I mean, yeah. Seems like that was kind of the main concern with that flash flood emergency. That's what they were talking about. Yeah, look at all these little indents here on this line. I'm just looking for those greater potentials of damaging wind. I don't really see too much indents in the sense of tornadoes, but I see a lot of little indents in the sense of locally 60 to 70, maybe even 70 mile-an-hour winds being possible inside this line. So definitely worth that severe thunderstorm warning, and for sure watching much of this area. I mean, it even looks like it continues down, like this whole line. Really, the only thing that doesn't look good on this line is the far northern edge up here. But really, everything from Indiana, Pennsylvania, all the way down to Oakland, West Virginia, that whole thing looks like it's producing 60 to 65 mile-an-hour winds here over the next 30 minutes or so. So if you're in that area I've circled for the next 30 minutes or so, definitely watch out for quite notable damaging wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour. A brief tornado is also possible. Heavy rain and frequent lightning as well. Hail threat is very, very low. Very low. 0.75-inch hail is probably the max. Why did we just get like 1 trillion damaging wind reports that just came in? Did you see that? I don't know if that picked up. But there was like no damaging wind reports out here, and I swear, like literally all of these just spawned out of thin air. Gracious. That's a lot of damaging wind reports. How many are we up to now? That's a big bulk of damaging wind reports that just came in. 50, I believe. I don't know if those have registered on the... No, those haven't registered on the National Weather Service site yet. Those literally just all popped in at once. They're not even in on the National Weather Service site. So I'm assuming that's probably the best area to watch. We actually, wow. We actually just got a severe watch for Indiana out here. Not an area I was expecting to talk about in the sense of a severe watch until overnight, pretty much tomorrow morning. But we did somehow manage to get a severe thunderstorm watch out for Indianapolis ahead of this line that the Storm Prediction Center thinks will continue to produce pretty widespread 60-mile-an-hour winds here over the next 3 to 4 hours. So if you're in Indianapolis, there's also a storm right over you guys right now producing roughly about 40, 50 mile-an-hour winds, but there's a bigger line coming in with very heavy rain, very frequent lightning, and 50 to 60 mile-an-hour wind gusts heading y'all's way. Let's go ahead and get a look at the timing of this for anyone out here. About 150,000 people inside the active severe thunderstorm warning. This is moving roughly east at 45 miles per hour, so we're going to get rid of the drawing. And we're going to use the free draw that Weatherwise has here. And we're going to draw that line. We're going to go kind of east, maybe a tad bit southeast, just like that. And 47 miles per hour is the automated one. Remember, those are 30-minute increments there. So 523 is this first one. 553 is the second one. 623 is the third one. 6:53 is the fourth one, and then at 7:28 p.m. is the very last one. And this is in Eastern time, so subtract an hour. This is 4:23 Central, 4:53 Central, and that's 5:23 Central, and then 5:53 Central, and then 6:28 Central. Can I get those times just a tad bit bigger? Is that a setting here? Nah. Unfortunate. Do the fill opacity, but not the actual times. But you can see them. They're a little bit difficult to see, but they are right here. Right here. and down the line. Those are the times. Subtract an hour for Central Time. Subtract 1 hour. So for Indianapolis, for the west side of Indianapolis, it will be there right about 5 p.m. Central. For the east side of Indianapolis, it will be there right about 5:30 p.m. Central. And then for people down in Martinsville, Indiana, it will be about 6 p.m. Central, same time, or rather 5 p.m. Central, my bad. 5 p.m. Central for Martinsville, Indiana, roughly the same time as it moves into western Indianapolis as well. Yeah, we're getting a lot more damaging wind reports being verified by the Storm Prediction Center. That's why we've seen a lot more wind reports come in across eastern Ohio in the last 20 minutes. They haven't occurred in the last 20 minutes, but the National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center is verifying those reports and sending them into the database. And if we put this to 6 hours, let's see if that's a bit more. Yeah, so look at your track of damaging wind reports here in the last roughly 4 hours across this area. Pretty widespread damaging wind reports. And that was what we were expecting. Also, another area is this trail from this severe storm in Illinois now going into Indiana. Pretty good amount of reports there as well. And then you did have some scattered severe storms in North Carolina. Want to make sure I go change those reports back to 3 hours. Don't want to get too old information, but I still want the damaging wind reports to display a little bit longer. So we got another new severe thunderstorm warning here. Moving into Petersburg, West Virginia. So make sure you guys are indoors, away from doors and windows. Once again, if you're in that tornado warning, it's about to expire here in 3 minutes. But remember, tornado warnings are just something that you have to seek shelter for. If you're in a tornado warning, just seek shelter. You'll be perfectly fine. There's no need to go crazy over it and be very, very panicked. I know it's easier said than done to not panic during a tornado warning. But just go away from doors and windows. Get to your safe spot, the safest room in your house, whether it be a bathroom, a storm shelter, a basement. Just get to your safe spot and you will be perfectly fine. Any tornadoes that occur today are likely to be extremely weak and extremely brief. We have had, I believe we've had roughly 4 tornadoes now. 3 or 4 tornadoes now today across eastern Ohio and western, southwestern Pennsylvania. None of those are official just yet, but by the time they go and survey it, we should see those reports come in on the National Weather Service database, which we just did get more reports. We jumped from 40 reports to 78 because those damage reports came in. So we're up to 78 damaging wind reports. Some are in Illinois. The bulk are in southeastern Ohio. A few in western Pennsylvania, a few in North Carolina, and a few in western to central West Virginia. But the bulk of them are in southeastern Ohio. Let me see. So we'll continue to monitor this line moving through. Looks like the stuff down towards West Virginia, moving into western Virginia, has kind of died out a little bit more than expected. It really didn't last very long out here. These storms are still strong, 30 to 50 mile-an-hour winds possible. A gust upwards of 60 can't be ruled out with them, but they are really starting to weaken and fall apart. Oh, well, there you go. As I mentioned that, they just issued a severe storm for 60 mile-an-hour winds here. So if you're in this yellow highlighted polygon, it's also tornado possible, which is a little strange. I don't see much rotation with it. But you can see that area of upwards of 60 mile-an-hour winds there, highlighted in white. So if you're in that, make sure you get away from doors and windows and don't go outside. Could get some pretty damaging wind gusts here of 50, 60 miles per hour and roughly half-inch hail possible. Frequent lightning, heavy rain, also going to be a concern. Can't rule out a tornado with it eventually, but I don't see a good tor threat anytime soon out of this. Chicago. Let me go see Chicago. Oh yeah, there is a tiny little storm rolling through Chicago. Thankfully, this is nothing like that derecho that rolled through the other day. These are just your normal thunderstorms. It looks like lake breeze is probably firing them. Some sort of boundary. I don't know if it's lake breeze or an outflow, but there's definitely a boundary right in here. And then a outflow boundary right in here. Basically, all that's going to do is it could help fire a few more weak thunderstorms. We're looking at just rain, maybe a lightning strike or two. Nothing too crazy up there. Nothing too crazy up in Chicago. Chicago's in the clear really for the next few days. Your best opportunity for any severe weather would be Tuesday evening and Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. But even then, that severe threat is very low. No more tornado warning out here in Pennsylvania, so we're tornado warning list, but we are still full of this large line of severe thunderstorm warnings. Once more, just as predicted, I expect this to continue here into all the way till Washington, most likely. I expect this will continue. I will say, though, this southern line has kind of held on a little longer than I was thinking. Or the more northern line, my bad. This up here towards Portage. That area, really, this line hasn't weakened as fast as I was thinking. But it's relatively on track. Obviously, the SPC was thinking the more northern side would die out too, because that's where their marginal starts. So the northern edge of that line a little bit stronger than originally expected. Not by like an absurd amount, but it is a little stronger than anticipated. It shouldn't last too much longer, though, because there's not a lot of lightning with it. It's still, though, as long as it has these little couplets, they're probably going to keep it severe. I'm surprised it's still not tour possible. We could easily get a brief spin up anywhere along that line. But as long as it has these little pockets here where you see these bright pinks and kind of yellows, very light yellows pulling through. Those are little pockets of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So as long as that's there, they're going to continue it to be severe. Is Missouri having bad weather? I looked on Weatherwise and saw we were in a mesoscale discussion. Yes. You guys will have some pretty rough weather later on today. If we look at the outlook here for wind, that yellow area is where the main wind risk is. Wind gusts could be as high as 70 miles per hour. And I really think there's an even more locally greater damaging wind threat right in here. I think we could even get a gust upwards of 80 miles per hour if a line does form, or if a more discrete storm can take advantage of the high amount of instability out here. So I wouldn't rule out a brief tornado or two, 1-inch hail, and wind gusts could be as high as 70 or 80 miles per hour, depending on what storm interactions do. So yeah, pretty rough storms, especially out in that area I have circled in white. But even back down towards like Springfield could even get in on some pretty rough winds, 40 to 60 miles per hour, if storms manage to get down that way. Taking a look here at our... I want to refresh for you so I could get the newest data. I don't want to have old data. It's the newest model rolling in here. You can see that has a plentiful amount of storms firing across Missouri. About 8-9 Central Time is when those storms become very, very widespread here. Thankfully, not too significant on this particular model run, but you could see some of these do have wind gusts of 50, 60 miles per hour. Earlier, this model showed wind gusts upwards of 80 miles per hour, so it has gone down a little bit, definitely quite a bit on the wind gust potential. But that is if storms stay a bit more messy. This shows more messy storms. Really, the only good storm in this model run is probably that one towards Union, southwest of St. Louis. So If we see a more of a line form, the wind threat's going to go up greatly. Or if we see more of a supercell form or a stronger storm like that, that wind threat could also be locally higher. If you take a look at those wind gusts, that one has still only about 48, so not too particularly high. But I do expect a widespread 40 to 60 mile per hour threat for damaging winds across much of this area in here. Local wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour. And again, if a storm starts going a bit crazy, wouldn't be shocked with upwards of an 80 mile an hour wind gust later on this evening into the early nighttime hours. Definitely at our lack of radar coverage down here for western Maryland and northeastern West Virginia. Our best radar coverage is of this severe storm up in here, but even that, getting towards Somerset, we're losing some of our radar data because these storms are getting away. Moving away from our good radar coverage. Let's see. Give me just a minute. Can't type today. Can't type or talk today. Let's go back over to this storm here. They issued this severe watch, and ever since then, this storm's looked more messy. So hopefully that keeps being the case. But either way, 30, 40 mile an hour winds, a lot of lightning, heavy rain, and we could get a gust upwards of 60 miles per hour out of this as it moves eventually towards Indianapolis in about an hour or so. But yeah, the biggest threat for severe weather still, by far, focus with this line in western Pennsylvania, northeastern West Virginia, as it's chugging along to the east-southeast. The northern extent of this line should die off here in about... let me check real quick. You know, the Cape still isn't that bad. Let's see what the new model data has. Yeah, I still think it's going to die off here in about 2 hours on that northern side. Originally, I was thinking it would die out sooner than that. I was thinking that northern line would die out as soon as 5 p.m. now. But it's really chugged along very, very well. The forward momentum of it has pushed it ahead of forecast, meaning there's more daytime heating. Because think about it. If storms are faster, that means they're going to cover more ground in the day. Whereas if a storm is very, very slow, of course, sunset's going to creep up on it and that instability will go down. So these storms are a little bit quicker, a little bit of ahead of schedule here. And that is resulting in a little bit more widespread of a wind threat than we were already anticipating. But I do think the northern edge of that line will slowly die out over the next 2 hours or so. And that southern line is going to become the more dominant line towards here, going towards DC and Baltimore. Weather this summer has been a snooze fest. Ben, we literally just finished a derecho with winds as high as like 120 miles an hour. So, not sure if we're on the same snooze fest. We're also tracking a pretty notable threat. They almost went day 3 enhanced for Nebraska, southwest Iowa. Now, if we're talking about like violent tornado potential and EF3 tornado potential, yeah, it's been a snooze fest. Why? Well, those type of tornadoes aren't very common outside of June. Once you go into June, it's getting very, very inactive. July, it's very uncommon. And then August, your full swing derecho pattern. July and August are big derecho pattern months. Tropics Department, Okay, well, not in that either. I mean, that could just fling our radar sight right over here to Hawaii and look at a historic tropical storm with a full-fledged eye wall on the northwest side, still producing pretty decent wind speeds out here, especially for Hawaii standards. We literally just had a historic hurricane sustained wind speeds on the southern big island of Hawaii for the first time in recorded history. But yeah, the Atlantic was expected to be a snooze fest. You have a very historic El Nino ongoing. Could be one of the strongest El Ninos, if not the strongest El Nino on record. So yeah, don't expect. Shoot, I wouldn't even be surprised if we don't even get a hurricane this season. Yeah, there was 127-mile-an-hour wind gusts in Hawaii yesterday. We managed to be live for that because we didn't do a very long live stream. Yeah. I do think today could verify the 30% wind risk near and south of St. Louis, but I don't think it should be 30 sig 1 because too much uncertainty on a line forming. Remember, sig 1 means wind gusts at or greater than 74 miles per hour expected. So, based on reports, nowhere so far in the U.S. would have verified as a sig 1 today for wind, even though we have had a lot of wind. I'm not sure how, though, Ben. El Nino is just going to go up from here. El Nino is going to peak in December, and by then, hurricane season's well over. So, I don't really know how we're going to get a hurricane in the Atlantic. It's going to take a lot of luck for the Atlantic to produce a hurricane this year. If I redid my forecast, I would definitely change some things. We're on the third named storm, so I would probably predict an additional 3 named storms, and you might be able to squeeze out a hurricane. 2 to 3 named storms, and maybe squeeze out a hurricane. But I don't know how you're going to squeeze a hurricane out of this pattern. We'll see, though. The best opportunity is probably going to end up being late September, early October. I say that only because that seems to be when the best chance for a major hurricane is. Somewhere between mid-September to early October, or late September to early October. Tends to be right between like the 20th, 15th, 20th of September till about the 10th of October is like that best window for a major hurricane. But again, El Nino is just going to get worse from here, which means just more wind shear. Less opportunity for hurricanes. So I don't know. When the last time we had a hurricane season this inactive? So inactive 2014, I think. 2014, the Atlantic season was quiet and below average with 8 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 2 majors. We are not getting that. Was it 2012? Not 2012. That's for sure. Definitely not 2012. When was the last time we had this inactive of a hurricane season? I can't even remember. Atlantic hurricane season, and we'll go in the last 20 years. Maybe it was 2015. 2015 hurricane season. This says 12 tropical storms, 4 hurricanes, 2 majors. Is that what I already looked at? Yeah, this is probably going to be a groundbreaking inactive season. Let's see. We're going to go over to AI. When in doubt, ask AI. Because it'll be able to shift through every site and tell you. Wow. The National Hurricane Center described 2013 as the most quiet Atlantic hurricane season since 1994, measured by ACE. 2013 featured 14 named storms, 2 hurricanes, and no majors. The ACE was only about 13.61, which was by far the lowest of a 20-year period from 2015 to 2025. 2005 to 2025. From 2005 to 2025, 2013 was the least active. This is going to be historically inactive. What was the most inactive season on record? How about that? 1914 featured only 1 tropical storm and had only 2.5 ACE. Second and third was 1907 and 1930, which featured 5 and 2 storms. However, in 1930, the 2 storms that formed were both hurricanes, which actually put the 5 named storms above it in terms of an ACE, less ACE. Wow. What time are we at, y'all? 2.5 hours. Might as well just go to 3. So if y'all haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, share the stream with family, friends, social media, hit that subscribe button with a notification bell set to all. It's really, really appreciated. I greatly appreciate it. We're not ending just yet, but I just wanted to say thank you for helping me reach so many people with the word of severe weather today. It's definitely been one of our more active live streams in the last couple of months. In the last 3 months, today is going to be the 4th. I believe it's going to be the 4th best live stream in the last 3 months. So I really, really, really appreciate that greatly. Glad to know that we can still reach the word of severe weather in mid-August. Normally, this channel, the viewership in mid-August normally falls apart so quick, it's absurd. Like, normally we go from concurrent viewers near 50 to 80 to like barely being able to get 10 to 15. And that's how it's going to be in winter, man. I got to find a way to do something with that YouTube algorithm in winter. Might have to like call everything a major blizzard or something. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Like, it's insane. Once you hit November 1st, like if I get to November 1st, once we get to November 1st all the way until March 1st, this channel just goes dormant for views. Which, it's never about the views, but the views are still important. And why is that important? Because that's how we reach people. I don't really want to be here talking to an audience of 0 people. Because I can make this channel to the point where it's about, helping people get weather aware. So it's not about the views, but the views are still important because that's what helps me get the word out to people and save lives. Yeah, it does come down to being more honest, though, Logan, for sure. I'm not the most perfect person on YouTube. I will say I do hype a bit, and I do overdo thumbnails a bit. And maybe not as bad as others, but definitely not the thumbnails that are, 100% accurate. I try, but they're not 100% accurate. But unfortunately, that's the way the YouTube algorithm is. I try to tone it down the best I can while still reaching at least some people. But like you said, you don't want to sacrifice all your honesty just for views. Which that's what I try to do. There's always that balance on YouTube, man. It's hard. It is not easy. But no matter what, as long as I'm able to, physically able to, I'm gonna stream. I'm gonna be here and talk about the weather because that's what I love to do. As long as I am able to, I will. As long as that viewer count doesn't hit 0. I'll be live even if it's just one person. Even just one person, I'll still be here. The same time, you're not gonna lie about it being a giant, but yeah, it's not a giant one. I ain't calling it a giant one. Fear-mongering is a pretty crappy practice. It depends how bad it is. How bad of fear-mongering, because there's been some forecasts where I didn't mean to fear-monger, you know? Like where forecasts have just went so far south that it just sounded absurd, like what I said. Like there's been points in my forecasting where I've been that bad before. For instance, reiterating the high risk. Talking about the high risk, I think it was 2024. Like we didn't get anything till Barnstall. That tornado. And we were thinking like multiple long tracked violent tornadoes, and we ended up with Barnstall, which was still one, but it came well after dark and after the high risk was removed. So it's complicated, man. Weather's complicated. Nothing in weather's easy. I just realized fall is weeks away. Thank goodness. Get me out of this heat. Thank goodness, man. We got another huge heat dome across much of the U.S. Yeah, I don't think we'll get a high risk this year. Unless we somehow get some super derecho, like 2012, 2021 type super derecho. We're not getting a high risk. Which I wouldn't rule it out in second season, you know? Second season with the historically strong El Nino, potentially the strongest one ever recorded. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me too much if we talk about a very high and moderate, borderline high risk type event, whether it be tornadoes or wind or whatnot. Can't be a high risk for hail, by the way. Hail high risk doesn't exist. Kind of rare for no high risks. This is the first time we've ever had the SIG levels, so I don't know how rare they technically are, but we typically do get 1 or 2 a year. But there is definitely instances where you could get 0. I wouldn't call it rare, it's just uncommon. Fall and winter forecast. I plan on doing that next month, but I've tried some research, but I gotta wait for some more forecasts and more meteorologists to release their forecast before I talk about it. But just know, winter forecast, we're cooked. Like, there's probably going to be a big snowstorm or two, but I don't know if I'm going to be coloring much above average anywhere in the U.S. with this strong of an El Nino. The only area where I might end up saying like above average snowfall, and it's a big gamble, is like Pennsylvania and Northern Virginia. But I think the bulk of the U.S. is going to be expecting average to below average to well below average snowfall. No, La Niñas are your big winters. La Niñas. Like 2016, if we pull it up here. Let's see. Let me go find it. Let me go find it. Let me go find it. Tornado folder. Tornado folder. Let's see. It's not in this. It's in the wrong folder. Tornado. There you go. Nino. You? Aha. Crap. Wrong one. This one? I have so many links. It's just a gambling game. I'm trying to figure out which one it is. Aha, that one. It's got to be. Yeah. 2016. Pull this up for y'all. 2025, 2023. Uh-oh, zoomed in too much. Uh-oh. 2016. 2016. March. We were coming out of a very strong super El Nino. But there you go. We were actually in early 2016. We were in an El Nino. But then in 2018, when you had one of the bigger snowstorms as well, 2018 was pretty memorable, La Nina. So it really, there's a correlation for sure, but really it's kind of a bit flip-flop. But I think La Nina is better. I'm pretty confident La Nina is better. You know what? We're going to AI again. AI could search through all this stuff faster than I can. I'm 99% sure it's La Nina. The thing is, El Nino gives you a more southern jet stream, so that does give you a better chance, typically, for snowfall across the southern U.S., but La Nina, I think, gives better overall. Here, AI just loaded. Let's see if it says exactly what I just said. El Nino is generally better for bigger snowstorms across the southern United States because the jet stream is further to the south, but this could also bring the potential for better severe weather. La Nina is generally better for bigger snowstorms in the central to northern United States, especially in the Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies, as well as the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, as the storm tracks typically shift further to the north and the air is typically colder. Neither La Nina or El Nino guarantee historic blockbuster storms. However, neither don't guarantee it. So you can have big snowstorms in either one, and it just really depends on your area. But for this big of a La Nina and the time frame that it's pushing through at, being peak in December, I wouldn't expect a very good winter. But oh boy, it could be a wild second season. Curious. 2021. Wow. Okay. I was not expecting to see December 2021 being a good La Nina. Shoot. I didn't see that coming. So, I think we'll have a above average severe risk in this winter. And I think the good chunk of the U.S. is going to be below average for snowfall. But there will be a few people who get lucky with a big one, as there always is. Somebody's going to get a very above average snowfall season. I just don't know who. But for my winter forecast, there's a very high chance I'm going below average for a good chunk of the U.S. What's up, Legacy? I'm getting towards the end of this live stream. I've been live for almost 3 hours, so better late than never. Ben got me talking about winter. In winter, so for this one, it looks like probably the main corridor is gonna be up in here. This will probably be the main corridor. So if I had to say, like, I would say above average chance for severe weather in this portion of the U.S. And actually, I might go a little bit more northeast. I might say more like this. Yeah, I would say more like this. Above average chance for severe weather in this portion of the U.S. and well above average chance for severe weather in this portion of the U.S. Did I just draw December 10th outlook? Every time I think of that perfect little circle, that perfect moderate placement on December 10th, 2021, I always think like right in here. Anytime I circle this portion of the country, instantly, December 10th, 2021. That was the first like insane tornado I actually tracked. Of course, Illinois. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You betcha. Even though I think in second season, Southern Illinois. In tornado season, our primary tornado season this year, it was central and northern Illinois. In second tornado season, it's going to be central to southern Illinois. You already know. I'm going to be working a little less now because of starting school. Because of school starting, eel school. I wish you luck. At least Chicago gets a break, hopefully. There's for sure going to be a risk or two into Chicago. For sure. Especially if we get above average temperatures this El Nino, which looks very likely. Looks very likely this upcoming winter. It would not surprise me at all. But I have to wait for sure. I'm not gonna be putting out my forecast for a while. Let's see. What I want to look up here. August, September, October, July 16th. When does this update? July, August. This should update like today. I'm going to look this up. Whenever we get the forecast for November, December, January, that's when I'll put out my forecast. Whenever we get the 3-month outlook from the Climate Prediction Center for November, December, January, that's when I'll put out my forecast for this winter. And let me check. When will be 3-month forecast for November, December, January? Aha! August 20th. Shoot. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it. When did I put out my winter forecast last year? I feel like it was like the last week of October or something like that. Well, it looks like it might be the first week of October this year. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. None of this garbage. Where in the world is my winter forecast? I did one last year, right? Okay, there you go. 10 months ago. Yeah, so it was definitely October. October 7th. October 7th. Got it. So, if I'm able to, roughly first week of October will be my winter forecast. I heard the 2027 tornado season could be quiet. Could be quiet. No tornado season's quiet. You have inactive seasons, but no tornado season's ever quiet. Even, I wonder what the most inactive tornado season ever was. It has to still be. It still has to be like 400 or 500. 422 was the most inactive on record. And that dated back to 1953. Uh-oh. I see red. 1953. And look at that. We were transitioning from a La Nina going into a El Nino. We were neutral going into El Nino. For 1953. That's March, April, May, which is your peak tornado season. Barely. Just 0.2 Celsius above. Yeah, very good point right there. Not many people reported tornadoes back then. Very good point. For sure. As technology gets better, that's just bound to happen that we can report more tornadoes. But yeah, I wouldn't say quiet, but it might be below average. But I'd like to get through winter first. We're still in hurricane season. We got to get through hurricane season, winter season, and then at the end of winter season, we can start talking pretty well on what 2027's tornado season may look like. But tornado season's always active at one point or another. The thing is, for the modern, like the modern last 4 years, our modern era, the last 4 years where we've really improved, the SPC, I should say, has really improved with weather forecasting, and we've had a lot of new updates from the SPC that's been released. Our standard for tornado season has kind of increased absurdly, because we had 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2020. I mean, all of them were very active tornado seasons. 2024, 2025, and even 2026, which 2026 was our best chance out of the last 5 years to get a good below average season in, and it still is going to end up above average. So it's and a below average year isn't like 10 tornadoes, 20 tornadoes, 400 tornadoes. Shoot, even a below average year is... Wait, what? What was I even saying? What am I even talking about? Of course, 400 tornadoes is below average, but like when you get to below average, still, you can have a below average season. People think like 1,000 tornadoes is in a below average season, or even 1,200 is below average. But that's still average. Like 1,200 is average. 1,100 you could still say is average. 1,300 still average. Roughly 1,100 to 1,300 is your average per year. So you don't get below average till 1,000 tornadoes. And I'm sure even if you had 1,200, 1,300 tornadoes, people are going to say below average. Why? Because 2024 had almost 1,800 tornadoes. And 2025 is probably right there. And I imagine 2026 isn't going to be... It will be a bit off. But 2025, almost 1,600. And 2026... I'm sure we're at what, like 1,300 right now? 1,200? Let's see. We are at about 1,100. About 1,100. So if we ended the year now, we'd probably be barely average to maybe the slightest bit below average. However, second season, I'm sure we'll have another 100 tornadoes in the next 4 months. I'm very confident in that. Wouldn't be shocked if we have more than that. I see that's also a good point too. Sometimes quality tornadoes too. You could have a very below average season, but if you have a bunch of violent tornadoes in very well open plain view to storm chasers, some may call that above average, even though it was technically below average. So, in terms of 2027, I don't really want to say much. I'll just say an average season because that's the best bet. We'll wait for winter. Wait till at least 2027 before we start really getting into the talks of that tornado season. Wait till at least January 1st. Some people like to get way too ahead of themselves and talk freaking 6 months in advance. Like, it's dadgum hurricane season on August 16th. We're heading into the peak of hurricane season. And I'm sure somebody's already mentioned next hurricane season. Actually, no, I saw a video on that literally like a month ago. Somebody talking about hurricane season next year. So, at least go season by season. Don't talk more than one season ahead, you know? Don't talk more than one season ahead. That's what I'm going to go by. Because I really don't think there's much of a point. But anyways, I'm going to wrap it up, y'all. I appreciate all you guys for being here. This was like the 4th most successful live stream in the last 90 plus days. So I really appreciate. Thank you, mods, for modding chat. Everybody for being here, helping me reach about 8,500 people with the word of severe weather today. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. I don't think I will be live tomorrow because I will probably be watching my neck of the woods and keeping my family up to date and weather aware. And Tuesday, I most likely will be live. So tomorrow, I probably won't be live. If there's content tomorrow, it's probably going to be in the form of a video, but I won't promise that because I could just lose power straight up. And yeah, look forward to winter forecast thanks to Ben. I can actually tell you now, I would probably going to be aiming for the first week of October for my winter forecast this year, if that's something you look forward to. And yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to end this perfectly because I don't know what time we're at, but I think it's very close to now. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you so much for helping me reach all the people that we did today with the word of severe weather. It would not be possible without you. If you didn't like the stream, subscribe, share the stream, and do all that extra stuff, it would not be nearly possible to reach this many people. So thank you for doing what you do to help support this channel. It's really appreciated. And if you haven't already on your way out and you'd like to support the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell set to all, and share the channel with family, friends, social media. Anything that you do to support the channel is greatly, greatly appreciated. If you hit the like button, it helps. Just being here helps. And then subscribing helps even more. Sharing it helps even more. So it's really appreciated. And I hope all of you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. If you're out there in Northern Virginia and Central to Western Maryland especially, stay weather aware. And I will catch y'all in Tuesday's live stream most likely. So stay safe. Watch the severe weather. See you in the next one. Thank you for being here. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch the severe weather, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.